Yo. It's Grapsody with Will, Phil, and Reg, trying to keep it real instead of what you usually get from these talking heads. It's Grapsody, we're here to fill the void. 3 black fans, different perspective, gotta fill your voice. Coming with the podcast, talking majors, indies in between. Yeah, it's all that, and we're down with Fightful, better fall back. Coming for respect, we connect like a ball bat. No need to double check, these are all facts. You're listening to us talk raps. You're listening to us talk raps. Will, Phil, and Reg. Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk raps. Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk raps.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of Grapsody. This may look a little bit different.
I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're obviously running a little bit late. It's a 2-man show at the moment. I know that I was just thinking through the theme song, got 3 black fans, different perspective. I'm like, nah, it's 2.
No, just 2 of us. Not Will, Phil, and Reg today. Just Will and Reg today.
Yeah. Hopefully we get Phil here shortly. But in the meantime, What's up, Reg? Happy 2023.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, happy 2023. We're out here. It's Saturday morning. I don't know. I feel like life is crazy. It's been a insane already 5, 6, 7 days of 2023. So, you know.
Oh yeah,
I
do know.
I don't know, man.
No, are you kidding me? Look at the topics of this episode right now. If you had shown me all 3 of these topics 1 year ago, if you had shown me these topics, I would have been like, well, first off, I would have questioned, what do you mean Vince McMahon is back? Where'd he go? But more than that, none of this would make any sense. Who the hell is Mercedes Moné? Nah, it wouldn't have made any sense. But anyway, folks, welcome to Grapsody. Hey, and the good news is, this little 2-man graphic I had to whip up in 5 minutes, unnecessary, because, folks, we actually, hold on. Here, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring up, let's see how we could do this. All right, we can, you're just going to watch me try to do the nonsense. I was like, should I take us off screen, do some shit? Nah. We are just gonna be like, bam, that don't make any sense right now, and then bam, and then bam, and then bam.
Transitions,
there
baby, transitions.
That's how we
beautiful,
do it.
Just like that beautiful finish I just watched. Transitions are on point with Will Washington, just like Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
What's up, Phil?
Great morning of getting up and nothing wanted to work. That was great.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, nothing wanted to work. I got up and I rolled over and I was like, what time is it? Went to touch my phone, wasn't on. I was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
And so I plugged it to the wall and then I plugged up the computer and everything. And then everything took forever to come on. And it's just like, okay, great.
Well, here we have Phil, who clearly just woke up. But welcome, Phil.
Yeah. Very annoying start to my day.
Sorry. Well, the good news is the show's only 3 minutes and 30 seconds in. So, let's just get into it, folks. This is Grapsody. In case people were wondering what the delay was.
What's up,
Phil? We were really just waiting on Phil. But I'm glad you're okay. Honestly, nothing sends more panic up my spine than calling somebody phone goes straight to voicemail and oh shit, what's happening here? The good news is Phil's here.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, man. It's annoying. That's what it is.
I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with everybody. My schedule is completely fucking off. Staying up for Wrestle Kingdom, I forget what that does to me every year, right? Where I do one morning staying up till 5:30. And I told myself, I was like, look, I'm going to stay up for this Mercedes Moné segment, and then I will watch the rest later. And then I'm like, but I kind of want to see this match too. And I'm like, but I want to see this match. And then, fuck it, it's Okada. I can't. Like, I got one match left. I might as well watch the whole thing. And then I look up and it's 5:30. And I'm like, okay, so I'm fucked. And the rest of my week is screwed. And my whole sleep schedule is off for days. Phil did New Year's Dash the next day, too.
Yeah. It was good New Year's Dash. I feel like it was the best New Year's Dash since I want to say 2018.
Oh.
High praise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I stayed up pretty late.
Who was
for it.
there? I'll ask this question. I guess 2018 would have been the last year with Kenny, though. So, like, is that the difference maker there?
2018 was the year Jericho came out and Naito did that great fake out with the chair and acted like he was going to throw it and sat down in it. I feel like 2018 was the last time that they had like real developments that felt exciting on New Year Dash. It wasn't just like, kind of paint by numbers. This year, I really like the format of it, of them not giving us the card until the day of. And so we didn't know any of the matchups until people were coming out. And, of course, we got the surprise of Kenny coming out at the last minute to team up with Okada.
That sounds awesome, actually. No, that sounds dope.
Wonder why he did that.
I know, right? Look, there are exciting developments right now. I feel like Kenny just being back in the mix creates so many opportunities, possibilities, like so many things that are just like the last 4 years. There's been this kind of feeling of, damn, Kenny's out of New Japan. It's a shame we don't get to see X. It's a shame we don't get to see Y. And it's like all of a sudden now having him back there, and you can just see it in his demeanor. This feeling of, nah, I am Kenny Omega still. And all of a sudden, all of the possibilities of things we can see, it's an exciting time for real. But I want to let everybody know, this is Grapsody. Welcome to 2023. Welcome to the first Grapsody of 2023. And everybody, I want you all to know that you can send us super chats. People have been sending us super chats pretty much all morning. And I appreciate you guys waiting patiently for us to get started. I know the big question pretty much all night. My mentions, if I muted the word percentage, my mentions would die. Because it's...
That's your life now.
It is. I mean, and the cool thing is today is kind of the percentage finale, isn't it? In that, look, it's either going to happen or it doesn't. And so we'll talk about that here shortly. But in the meantime, we've got a lot to get through. I want to first get some Humper chats out of the way. Shot Kid said, Grapsody, first off, what's your guys' over-under on how long it takes for Vince to be back in creative? And
What's
it
your
says...
percentage?
I am going to go ahead and say that I don't think he ever truly left creative. I think that he has been sending emails and sending things that we don't know about all this time. I don't think that he has ever stopped working.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, but also that's a heavy one. So...
But I believe it. I've watched the show, so I could see it with my own eyes.
He also says, and in regards to Mercedes, I had this thought. Who said if she's debuting for AEW, it has to be as Soraya's partner and not as part of a post-match? I mean, I have at least any details. I said I would do some digging. And I said I was going to get it, say what I had found out before Day After Dynamite this week, and I wasn't able to really do that. And I say that because I didn't really get any responses till after Day After Dynamite. So I suppose I can drop some of the responses I've got and talk about where my feeling is in regard to all of that. But let's see, Rerun says, for Grapsody, who is the first wrestler you'll use and fight forever? Mine's Rey Fenix. If they get Phoenix right, the rest should be amazing. I mean, I guess it's a cliche answer, but I feel like Kenny Omega is like a video game dream. Like his offense is built for a video game. He definitely wrestles like somebody who, like, I know a lot of people criticize him for that. They're like, he wrestles like a creative wrestler where you just assigned him everything that's awesome in pro
People
wrestling.
actually say that?
Oh yeah, his biggest critics say that. And but the thing is, duh, that's fucking Kenny Omega. This is a guy who like is known for playing video games, and of course his offense is built like a video game character. That is Kenny Omega. He himself is built like a video game character. He himself came out as Sephiroth this past Wednesday at Wrestle Kingdom, and like, nah, he's the first. He's like, I have wanted to, like, obviously I like Fire Pro a lot, but I've really wanted Kenny Omega in like a full on 3D wrestling game for a long time, and to have it would just be that would be my first. He's my go-to. He's like front and center on the cover now. I know it was Punk, but like now, like front and center on the cover is Kenny Omega. Like it's his game. Like that's the other thing too, is this is, when I look at the game, it's Kenny Omega's game.
Right.
What about you guys?
I am going to try Dante just because I want to see how close his offense is.
Is he in it though?
You tell me.
Don't know. Hopefully.
So I know that because I know because it was kind of a limited roster, and I know that thinking about when the cutoff was, I would hope he made it, but I don't know if he would have. Like if FTR didn't make it, I don't know if Top Flight did. So that's my only concern there. But I know that as far as like the top guys in the company, I know that they all made it. But yeah, Kenny's for me. But
definitely, if the big homie is in the game, that's definitely going to be my first person to use, because first of all, that's insane that my friend will be in a fucking video game. So like, I have to. I don't know. I mean, we haven't seen any of the roster, so we don't really know exactly. Like Will was saying, like we don't know if Top Flight's in there. We don't really know anything about the roster. So I'm hoping that he's been scanned and I'll be able to pick him first. 100%. Powerhouse.
Speaking of which, you didn't see Rampage last night, so you did see the Jade finish. We just talked about that before the show, and that was just
yes.
I can't say enough great things. I mean, the match was great. Like Sky Blue, I think gave Jade her best performance easily, and you know who I feel bad for, by the way? It was just an ill-timed tweet, but Cora Jade got it bad last night. And
what she said?
Part of it, so Cora Jade tweeted, and she says it had nothing to do with the Sky Blue match. She said she wasn't watching. But well, she said it was more related to the house show she had just worked, and she was working at an NXT house show. But anyway, she posted a GIF. It was from Grey's Anatomy, and it just said, "You want to be me, but you can't be me," and it just happened to fall right after the Jade Cargill and Sky Blue match, and so my God, Cora Jade's mentions got lit up. The quote tweets on that are all like, well, Sky Blue's better than you anyway. Well, you stole her look. And all this other stuff. And she tweeted the next morning, she's like, you guys are all idiots. And she's like, I promise I was too busy beating the flavor out of Sol Ruca last night to pay attention to anything else. NXT Venice last night, NXT Largo tonight. And I mean, that is a fact. There was an NXT house show last night. I don't necessarily see her watching Rampage backstage at a house show.
What are they, just two brunette girls? Like their gimmick's not the same, like nothing.
I mean, I think people like the backward hat.
No.
I think it's just the hat.
People gotta chill out, man.
Yeah, no, they were.
I saw it while it was happening, and I was just like, this is dumb.
So dumb.
Yeah, like,
it doesn't even make sense.
Like, I wasn't sure what it was about initially. I just saw everybody tweeting about Cora Jade, and I'm like, what? So I'm like, and let me go to Cora Jade's page, and I saw what she tweeted, And my gut instinct was, I don't think she was throwing shade at Sky Blue. These two have faced each other before. I don't think this was the case.
Yeah. I think this is just a hunch. I think there are AEW fans that are still upset with her about the Darby thing, and so they were looking at anything to be mad at her about. That's what it felt like.
And I know that was
Yeah,
but like I said, there's a lot of quote tweets on that particular tweet. There's currently almost 300 quote tweets on that tweet, and they're all to the effect of imagine thinking your whole gimmick is a snapback, and like a lot of people coming at her for the snapback, right? Like that's because that's really all the two of them have in common stylistically is that they wear snapback.
I don't know.
I know I saw some people talking about why don't you bring out your tarot cards, because people remember the Elena Black character used to come out with tarot cards, and she got it bad. But anyway, the everything I was going with here, I was actually bringing it back around to Hobbes. So apparently the Book of Hobbes is now an actual book, which he introduced last night. And he has a physical Book of Hobbes now, and he said that everything that he's experienced is in this book, and he's going to now make sure you experience it. And every hardship he's been through, he's going to put his opponents through the Book of Hobbes. I didn't know there'd be a physical book. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about the physical book yet.
Yeah, it's really, look, it's really well bound. It has like gold letters on it. I'm like, okay.
It look good on the bookshelf, is what you're saying, Phil?
If you were looking for something to like put your notes and like your like sketches and like stuff in, it looks like a pretty cool book.
I mean, I'm curious, like, is there actual text in that, or is that just like a blank book with the cover? Because obviously the implication is that there is text. But on the other hand, I'm still like, what's in the book? I kind of want to know.
Is there actual text in that book? We'll see. Hopefully by the end of Grapsody, we'll find out.
That's so great.
Yeah. Lena Black gave it to him. It's a bunch of spells in there.
Yeah.
Brought it right back around. I love it.
Yeah, we got a couple of super chats or humper chats here from Tony P. Tony P asked a couple of things. He says, so a few things, so bear with me. The match with Sky not only showed her improvement, but showed Jade is starting to be able to lead a match. On to Shida and wanting an all Joshi stable. I am not feeling for reasons. And then Tony sent two more chats to go with this one.
What
so hold on, there's more with it. It says, this gives me the same feelings this gives me the same feelings when people wanted Mello to join Hit Row because he was black. It feels same here. Shida and Japanese roster members who don't have a Shida kind of vibe and their own person. Okay, I kind of get what's saying. Like, if a Japanese person is wanted, get one who can vibe with her in a stable, like Rina Yamashita crazy ass. Then maybe someone like Kayla Rossi as her heater. Speaking of Rossi, her versus Jade. Also, Sammy's jump out is happening after he beats Kevin.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot here.
So. I was very confused as the direction of the number chat.
Yeah, so a lot of that. But I get what's being said when people are like, hey, I would love to see a faction that's between Shida. I think the go-to that people usually say is they want to see Shida, Yuka, and Riho in a faction together. And then the question becomes like, well, what ties do they have together? I would say if you're going to do that, I would rather do Shida, Riho, and Rio. And the reason I say that Rio Mizunami specifically is because that was the original trio, Team Shida, at the first Double or Nothing. And so there could be a story to tell there of that they came into AEW together. They were bound together initially. And that is... And now, in order to get back to prominence, they're going to work together. That's a story to tell. I can kind of see the idea that I know people are saying, well, if you're just sticking Japanese women together, that feels a little bit not so much racist, but racial. And that's not necessarily a thing that, there has to be a common vibe. There has to be a common idea. I mean, it is clear that there seems to be a story being told. We talked about this on Day After Dynamite, that the story of the influx of AEW signees from WWE versus AEW originals, that there seems to be a story brewing there, like the fact that Saraya had an opportunity to pick Shida and pick Tony, and that annoyed Shida does now put Shida on that same side that Britt's been talking about of, we've been here building this house. We built this house. This is our house. We've been here brick by brick, and you guys just think you can come in and have these opportunities. And, well, shit kind of makes sense, right? Like, Shida would have a reason now to feel slighted.
I love this for two reasons. It plays into people that were like, oh, Saraya just came in. She didn't watch the show, because if you were watching AEW for the last 2 or 3 years, you would know that Shida is one of the best women's wrestlers in the division because she holds a record. But also, I love that Shida immediately took offense, not in a, oh, man, she picked her. Why doesn't she like me? Like, no, I'm better than her.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm better than her.
You know what I got from that? I got like why did you even call me here? Couldn't this have been an email? Like, what did you need? You sat me down here to be like, hey, guess what? Not picking you. Not even going to address you by name. She's just said her. But so, again, I think there is a story to tell there with AEW original women feeling slighted by this influx of new women coming in and thinking that the spotlight is theirs. Somebody sent in a super chat, me and Sean kind of talked about on Day After Dynamite this week, the idea of like, that's the perfect grounds for like a blood and guts match of the two sides against each other.
Yeah.
And
I didn't pick a Japanese woman that you should pick. Hey, if you are going with a Yakuza vibe and you need a shooter, Junko Kiona is still out there. Her whole gimmick for a while. Hey, just saying. She is available. Can sign her.
And Kel says...
Breaking news on Grapsody. Breaking news. Get the scoopsters out. It is confirmed. There is text inside of the Book of Hobbes. Write it down, Sean Ross Sapp.
Look at that. Breaking
There's
news.
There's text in the Book of Hobbes, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, I like it. Because I would love it if, like, every match is based off, like, a chapter of the book of, like, something he went through, and you're going to experience his hard knocks. There's something you could do with that. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Might be an actual physical book. Who knows? Who's going to buy it?
Kells says, quality being so high, but viewing and attendance numbers being down. Is this more WWE sucking the air out of the room, or is this just AEW's new normal? Does this give Punk or Mercedes too much leverage, or do you think the course and numbers will rise? Yeah, so it's kind of hard, right? Because quality is really high right now. I'd say the last month of AEW TV has really been some of their best stuff. Attendance has been pretty okay the last month and a half. I know they went through the fall. They had a really bad spell of like, hey, this show is down versus last time. This show is down versus last time. But I think the last few shows have been pretty good. Well, they were in Portland last night. Portland was hot, and that was the first time in Portland. But I think they had a pretty solid number in Portland last night. Night before Seattle did really good numbers. Seattle was really close to the last time SmackDown was there. Denver was 1,000 people more than the first time in Denver. San Antonio, I think, was lower. I think a lot of the repeat markets have been slightly lower. San Antonio was slightly lower. Where were they the week before San Antonio? That was Dallas. Yeah, Garland. Garland was higher than the time before. So Garland was up. And I'm doing this all from memory, so I apologize. And the week before that was Austin, Texas. And I think that was like, it wasn't the lowest, but it was lower than the last one. So either way, like, I'd say like November-ish, they had some like head scratching numbers, but I would say the last month or so has been pretty good. As far as ratings are concerned, yeah, I don't know. And I have actually asked around about that. There is this kind of like feeling of hope that, the fact that the positive spin on it, of course, is always, well, it was a top 5 show, and in the time slot, it's not falling out of the top 5. It's, comparative to other shows on Wednesday nights. It's not losing its place, but it's not doing as well as it was a year ago. And so that, I don't know what the fix is for that. But like I said, that's usually the pushback I get, is that quality's really high, feedback's really high on it.
I have an idea what could help this. His name is Phil. He lives in Chicago, and he's not on this podcast.
Well, and that's what he was saying, is that, does that give Punk almost too much leverage now? Because Punk can't come in and go, hey, when ratings were way higher?
I felt like that was what he was trying to do with them IG tweets. I was like,
Right.
y'all were kind of cooking when I was there. I don't know what y'all doing now.
and like the question was saying, like, quality-wise, like, the show, I think, has had probably one of its best stretches. Like, I feel like the last month of shows has been the best stretch since really, like, early 2020. I feel like just to have a great stretch of shows like this where I walk away from the show going, I always feel like I want 2 things out of any wrestling show. I want to enjoy the show, and I want that feeling of can't wait to see what happens next week. And I feel like for the most part, even through the fall, I was feeling like, okay, I've enjoyed the show, but there's nothing making me want to see next week's show. And that was an issue I was having. I feel like lately now I'm coming out of each show again going, all right, next week sounds dope too. Let's do it. And I feel like that's the thing that they need to keep up and get up there. I've been paying a lot of attention to the quarters and things along those lines. So either way, I want to keep reading some super chats because we got a lot of these. Brent sends a super chat in. He says, weeks like this are just, yeah. Throw up the Grapsody symbol. Let's go. Appreciate the hell out of you, gentlemen. Caden says, officially in my 20s. Happy birthday, Caden. I'm glad you are on the other side of adulthood now. Not quite the other side, because there's a much bigger other side, which is like 20s is great. I enjoyed my 20s, but 30s has been like up there. 30s is
better.
Yeah, like I don't have that. Now, granted, I've been a parent most of my adult life because I had my first kid at 23, and so I recognize that a lot of it was like learning on the job of like being an adult, but then also trying to take in being a parent. Speaking of which, as I've mentioned, single parenting this weekend because my wife's been gone for a few days and she won't be back till like Tuesday-ish. And so I've got a lot going on, like right before this show, which was surprising that I thought I was going to be the late one because I'm like, all right, I got to feed the kids. I got to get this ready. I got to get them dressed. I got to do all this because Billy's got a play date coming up at 2:30, like right after the show. So then like, as soon as we're done, I got to go take him to that. And then Veda wants to go to Skate City tonight, and I feel like I got to chaperone that, so I got to go to Skate City as well, and I got to do all of this stuff, and then I also got Grapsody as well, so got to make sure that they're situated, but then I'm like, okay, I want both of you guys to play, but you got to play quietly because I got a podcast to do right now, and I'm just bouncing all around, but I'm here, so it's exciting, right? And like Veda was practicing piano like right before the show, and I'm like, honey, that's so great. I'm so proud of you. Also, I need you to stop because that's gonna come out on my mic.
Like, you sound beautiful up there, girl, but like let's relax for 3 hours.
Yeah, like she's like practicing, she's like playing and singing, and I'm like, that's so great. Need you to stop. Thank you. Like it's parenting. This is what we do. Let's see. Orion Ben 666 says, "Dude saw folks having fun and went, give me that chain back. I'm gonna sell it to the Saudis. As a military guy, this happens. F that dude and his fake." I think there was more to that, but that's okay. Let's see.
Yeah, that Saudi thing.
We're about to talk about all of that. Like that's
Boy, can I tell you, I after a great week of wrestling from all these companies, New Japan, the last thing I want to talk about is Vince McMahon. Seriously.
Yeah.
And Reds, they're asking you to raise the volume on your mic if you can.
Okay.
But let's see. Channel BXNYC says, Vince McMahon, please make WWE great again. How about you? First off,
Oh my God, everything about that was blah.
I can't believe you spent $2 to tell us that. Like,
Awful.
come on, man. What is happening here? We also got another from. Look, I mean, I'll say this. There are things that I do think Vince did better than Hunter. And that was... I know, this is a hard thing, right? I think Vince understood the WWE audience better than Hunter. And I think that... and what I mean by that... And granted, he'd been doing the shit for 50 fucking years. He should. It's his audience. It's an audience he built. Like... The fact that Hunter has had so many like cold debuts or cold returns lately, and there is a piece of me that's like, Vince. Of course, Vince just wouldn't have used this person altogether. But I think that if Vince was gonna use that person, I think that he had spent so many years kind of conditioning an audience to accept things a certain way that when Hunter doesn't do it that way, people are like, huh? And so I think Hunter has to... I think he's just got to work to recondition the audience, basically. I think it's just going to take time. But I think him kind of doing things the NXT way and it not clicking with the audience is... I don't know. I don't know if it's going to continue to work. Last night, of course, we saw... Oh, and I don't know if Reg saw it because Reg has been kind of offline. Last night, we got the big Hit Row heel turn. And I'm glad that they needed that. That was something that just as a faction, as something that Hunter brought in, I didn't want to see him... Like, it was time to admit defeat. It was time to admit this shit wasn't working. But I didn't want to see anybody out of a job, right? Like, I feel like I wanted to see them kind of go back to the drawing board and figure something else out. And I think turning them heel was the right move. I think it worked. I think the crowd was booing them. Like, they didn't like what they saw. And I immediately felt like once you started seeing kind of all of them, especially BFAB, like the way they were kind of presenting the more cocky attitude, I was like, I can already see this working better.
Yeah, and I mean they picked somebody that they've already been making into one of the better baby faces on the roster, Ricochet, for them to have beef with. And I'll say even Top Dollar's reasoning for picking him of all people, like you can't laugh, I thought was pretty sound.
Yeah. Did you hear how it went down, Reg?
No, I didn't really. I heard that they turned heel, but I didn't see or hear anything about it.
Basically, Ricochet won the match with Top Dollar, and then Top Dollar extends his hand for a handshake, and then they jumped him. They jumped Ricochet, the three of them. And then Braun Strowman came out for the save. I hope it's not just headed toward like Braun versus Top Dollar, but
Oh God.
Braun is just gonna run through them
That
next week. That'd be
disgusted me.
awful.
but yeah, they turned the three of
Oh
them.
my God, terrible.
And like I said, though, I like the demeanor of all three. Like the moment they turned on Ricochet and kind of stood over him and did the money thing, and I was like, this just looks better. It looks less corny. I think it's just gonna work out better.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it works. I hope it works for Hit Row. I'm just saying because I just don't want to see Braun in a feud with them. I hope that's not what it's going.
Like the next steps of them being heel is like going to Braun Strowman. That's not gonna work for me, dog.
Yeah, I mean, well, Braun still has the Imperium stuff going right now, so I'm assuming that's what Braun's gonna be doing.
Hey, well, yeah, you got team and team and team then, huh? Because you got Imperium, you got Hit Row, and then you've got the team of Braun and Ricochet. That actually kind of works itself out too. I know some people were like, damn, like that entire story that was being told with the Viking Raiders and Hit Row and all of that, and Legado del Fantasma is just dead. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. Like Hit Row won that triple threat, and that's over.
Because the Viking stuff ain't good. Sorry.
Well, I did, but again, neither was Hit Row. Like Hit Row stuff was not working, and it's like I was happy to see them back, and like I said, I'm happy to see people with jobs again. But I was not feeling really anything they were doing on screen, and so trying again is. And then if this doesn't work, then you can kind of take a step back and go, all right, is this gonna work? I don't know. So again, that's. Well, we will talk about Vince here shortly. But Cade here says, good morning, y'all. Feel like an entire segment got to be dedicated to how hard Josiah went in on that new AR Fox theme. Yes, that was very good. Yes, smoked it. That was, no, I'm not going to say that, but it's a good theme. It's a really good theme.
Nuh-uh. No, for real. Josiah killed it. He went like, he's had a couple where I'm like, damn, he went like super fire. Like, I hate the chairman, but his theme is fire. But this theme is one of the best that Josiah has done, like, ever. Like, it perfectly encapsulates what AR Fox is.
There's another one he kind of cooked and, keep saying use that on TV now that, Red Velvet is branching off, doing their own thing. Could always use that,
Yeah, your boy might be working on a slight remix for that to hopefully get it TV ready. I will say this isn't one of those things where I've been commissioned to do so. This is a more an idea I had, and I did tell Mikey, I did tell Red Velvet, and Red did provide me with some vocals that I'm adding to it. And so if it works, cool, I will present it to Mikey Ruckus and as a please use this on TV kind of thing. If not, then it will never hear the light of day. Or the sound of day, I guess. It'll never see the light of day. You'll never hear this song if they hear it and go, nah. But I have been working on a little bit of a remix of it to get it kind of more TV appropriate.
Yeah,
but no, the way...
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I enjoy chanting stir it up when her theme starts, but come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, hey, she really is being built up as, like, Jade's, like, rival. Like, Jade hasn't really had a rival that has felt like Red Velvet does pretty much this entire run. Jade's rivalries. I mean, I guess I could say maybe Athena did, but for the most part, I feel like Jade is really coming off, or Red Velvet is coming off more than anybody as like Jade's true rival who may have her. I can't say has her number, right? Because like every time it feels like Jade is about to have Red get under her skin, Jade's like, nah, I got this. Like Red left her at ringside And Jade is just like, whatever, and just beats Kiera Hogan. Red interfered in last night's match, and Jade is still like, nah, I still got Sky Blue. Like, I can't really say any of it's working, but it is.
Yeah. I like it. I like what they're doing a lot. I like the fact that Jade has been left with the only person she didn't want as a baddie, and that's Layla, and that was Kiera's idea to bring her in. So I think that she has assumed that Layla is loyal to her, because why wouldn't she be? But she has plenty of reason not to be. And
that's actually a good read on that story. I forgot all about that little detail, that the only baddie left is the one she didn't want. That's actually really good.
Yeah, I think everything they've done with like the implosion of the baddies has been pretty good.
Yeah. No, I am liking the Red Velvet story, and I'm liking how she's just like, nah, fuck you. Like, what do you think this is? And the fact is, she does know Jade best. She's been the closest to her. So, but as far as the AR Fox theme is concerned, I think Josiah just came out swinging on it. I think that the way it just immediately, straight out of the gate, he goes hard. I like it a lot. It's a great theme song. Van Twinblade says, maybe Phil is heading down to St. Louis for the Glory Pro show tonight. This was with Phil not here this morning. But nah, we got Phil here now. iChurch Pastor says, Mercedes watch predictions. We'll get there. Happy New Year. Thank you. Deontay says, I love wrestling. All love y'all. Wishing well. Thank you. Brent Lockman says, New Japan's Mystery Vortex was worth the insomnia. Tim Gordon says, happy Saturday. Went to my first live show on Wednesday and had a blast. The crowd was in utter disbelief that Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett could have possibly been AEW tag champions. Look, say what you will about Jeff Jarrett, but that rematch last night I thought was very good. I thought that the heat Jeff Jarrett got was excellent, and just at every single turn where it seemed like they could possibly win, the crowd gets so mad, so upset, and yet the Acclaimed still won. So like, but I think people have these like TNA flashbacks of, nah, here it comes. Jeff Jarrett came in to book himself as this, and we're just waiting for it to happen. Like, the second you saw him hold those tag titles, you were like, no.
Did you see Garrett's tweet last night where he was like, I don't know, man, they spent all that time giving us ROH nostalgia and people weren't into it. Seems like people are into this TNA nostalgia right now. I thought that was a great tweet.
He's not wrong though, but like, I know that's Garrett is Mr. TNA, but I thought that was, like, he's right. Like, all of the TNA stuff, the pop that Max Caster got, because again, I wasn't sure how much they'd lean more into the Kurt Angle stuff, but when Max Caster locked that ankle lock on Jeff Jarrett, and then when he grapevine, so like he pretended to pull down the straps because he didn't have straps, and he like pulls them down and then grabs the ankle lock on Jeff Jarrett and then grapevines it, and Jeff Jarrett selling it like $1 million. And I just thought, damn, they're really having fun with everything that came out of that rap last week.
Yeah, no, this feud was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And it was really way more entertaining than it had any right to be. I mean, even that first segment, I was like, no, this is really funny. And so there were a lot of things last night, like just that small moment of him holding up the guitar, and then we got like the boombox versus the guitar thing. I was like, it's a little meta for me, but I'll take it. I thought it was great. I definitely bit on Wednesday night. I was like, no, they can't do this. No. Yeah, just giving Aubrey the moment 2 nights in a row. I thought that was great.
Yeah. Jeff Jarrett's an interesting case because you don't want this. Nobody wants this. When Jeff Jarrett first appeared, everybody was like, no, absolutely not. But the dude really gets heat. and people like want like he gets old school heat. It sucks. It's like you want him to leave, but then you're like, damn, I really want to boo this guy.
Listen.
Though. And when he brings that damn guitar out, I hate it so much. It's crazy.
Jarrett is really funny too, man. When he last night when he cleared the ring and he started that strut, and I was just like, Jay, you're black. You're supposed to have more rhythm than him. What are you doing? And Jarrett.
Oh, Billy hates the strut so much. By the way, like this is really Billy's first exposure to Jeff Jarrett, right?
It's so obnoxious. It's so obnoxious.
And Billy asked me yesterday. He's like, "Why does Jeff Jarrett do that stupid strut that nobody cares about?" And those are his exact words.
Yeah, no, Billy. There are years of him doing this. Yeah. I think the funniest strut I've ever seen someone do is when Austin came down and stunned him and did. It's still funny as hell every time I see it.
Well, so it was funny yesterday. Billy and I, he had asked me about who The Rock's greatest rival is, and I went, "Oh, it's Triple H, easy." And he goes, "Really?" And I went, I said, "Yeah, there's no question to me that that's Rock's biggest rival." And so he's like, "How many times do they face each other?" And I was like,
"You capping."
I mean, I think it's Austin.
It's
but
Austin.
I think Austin's the biggest
Austin.
in the sense that they had those, they had the WrestleMania matches. But when you think about like at every stage of Rock's career, and where I was going with this is Billy and I went on a journey, and he and I spent, I want to say, hour and a half, and we just watched Rock and Triple H matches, like all of them. And I stand by that now. That is his biggest rival. Like just thinking about where DX versus the Nation, like it happened at so many different turns, right? Because you had Rocky Maivia versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley initially, and then you had then you had DX versus the Nation, and then you had up and coming Rock versus Hunter, like who is gonna step into being the top guy first, and then you had main event Rock versus main event Hunter, and then them coming back and revisiting it. Like it just happened so much. They were like just side by side career rivals. Like you think about what's the biggest win of Rock's career, it's easily the win over Hunter at Backlash, like when he was finally able to overcome the McMahon Helmsley faction. And so, but we went through and we watched like all of it. And I said all this to say that at some point we landed so when we got to the SummerSlam match, Rock versus Hunter in the ladder match for the Intercontinental title, and I'm fast forwarding through and Billy sees Jeff Jarrett having a match with X-Pac. And he's like, "Wait, Jeff Jarrett was around back then?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, Billy, this man is old as hell. Like this is, and It's like, yep.
Jarrett has the best themes, man. Come on.
It was like that. Yeah, I was like, yeah, Billy, that is that Jeff Jarrett. And he was just surprised to see Jeff on his screen.
No, it's funny because I've said that same thing that Billy said watching wrestling in 1987. Like, damn, Jeff Jarrett was around back then, too. This fool's been around for a long time.
Shout out to Jarrett, man. Come on, man. All-time bag chaser, man.
Number one.
I know.
Not even bag chaser, bag getter. He ain't got to chase no bag. He's getting bags.
Vince McMahon has fired this man on live national TV, and he still came back and got a bag.
You're talking about
never loses.
GOONE gone. I'm like, Vince, that's spelled Goonie, but okay.
No, you can't get rid of Jarrett, man. He's always gonna find work, man. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
and he still looks great, man.
He does.
Hey, shout out to Jarrett, bro.
And Jarrett did talk recently about the fact that he is going to start doing house shows for AEW. That's the market he's going to start building, and I'm curious about that because he was talking about how he's got to pick his words carefully because he's like, I don't want to offend any markets, but we got to start running those markets that will never get a Dynamite. And I thought, damn, it's a harsh way to put it, but I can definitely see, running those little bullshit ass cities that, and sorry if you live in a bullshit ass city, but you know what I mean by that. But those cities that that don't have a sports team, will never have like anything of the sort, but at the same time deserve to see some live wrestling, but are not big enough to get a Dynamite. And so that's what he's basically talking about, that AEW is going to start running, are those smaller towns. And, you know, he's like, I have expertise in running small markets like that, and that's what we're going to do. And he's going to try and get that market up going this year. So Jeff Jarrett and the house show is about to be a thing. And I guess that's the piece of the house show I never really thought about, you know, because Moxley talked about the fact that he hates house shows, that he's like, why am I killing myself, you know, with a pay-per-view coming up, and, you know, I could potentially get injured here when nobody will have seen it. And like that aspect of it from the wrestler perspective, I do get, of like, you know, he talked about how here I am a week before WrestleMania working a house show, working a match when I've got WrestleMania literally coming up this Sunday. What the fuck am I doing? On the other side of that, the side Jarrett described is one I've never really thought about, but also you do have to get in front of those smaller markets, because those are markets you could potentially be turning into fans.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is a way to grow the fan base. You know, you can get those bigger markets, but at the same time, you know, just to know, oh, they're coming to our local VFW hall, that's great. Like that's, I could definitely see that. I don't know if those are the venues they're going to be running.
So I did not know that Mox said that, and I kind of feel like some people that were like, Reg don't know what he's talking about, were kind of wrong.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what Mox said. That was the whole discussion of after he left WWE. He talked in those interviews about how he did not understand the need for running house shows the way we're doing them when they have so much television now. He was like, I understood it from the old school mentality of, you know, television was kind of a rarity. The space on TV is kind of a rarity. So therefore, to give people the opportunity to see the wrestlers in kind of a local capacity, let's run these non-televised shows. But he's like, but in an age where you can literally stream anything, what are we doing these house shows for? Why are we doing non-televised stuff?
I understand the purpose of house shows. I get there are other reasons for house shows, but it's interesting that there are other perspectives of it. It is very interesting that people try to jump on my man and act like that every wrestler everywhere likes doing house shows.
And then think of an issue like AJ Styles got hurt at a house show and we didn't see it. You know what I mean? Like some bullshit ass match that doesn't matter, and now AJ Styles is out. It's just like shit like that, you know?
Yeah, very unfortunate timing for him to be out too. With Royal Rumble coming up and Good Brothers are back now.
Right.
Unfortunate.
I feel like that's another Good Brothers run sabotaged, in the sense that not intentionally, but just that's like kind of got torpedoed. You know, I was thinking about that though. You know, Reg did get a whole bunch of shit for everything he said back at that time. And I remember thinking, and I don't think I ever tweeted this because I didn't want the sniper fire that Reg was getting.
That was on my ass, boy.
No, we both sat back in a group chat like, damn, they tearing that guy up.
Yeah.
What's for breakfast?
But I did have the thought of like, you know what's interesting is when guys reach a certain status in their career, what's usually the first thing that they negotiate out of their contracts? It's usually house shows, right? Like Randy Orton got house shows out. He was like, I'm not working those no more. Like, unless it's like a big Madison Square Garden one, like, I'm not doing this. And got him the fuck out of his contract. Didn't have to work him anymore. Bryan Danielson, his thing was, he wanted to work TV every week. I ain't working house shows. Not fucking doing it. And it's like, it's one of the first things to go when a wrestler gets big enough and can negotiate that into their contract of, I'll be at TV every week, maybe, but I'm not working a house show. Like, not unless it's like United Center or Madison Square Garden. Then maybe.
But Shelton Benjamin was in my comments saying how he loved working fucking Gold Dust 5,000 times in 1980s.
No, and look, man, again, I get the purpose of house shows. I get that there are wrestlers that enjoy it, but I do think there's another perspective, and I thought it was crazy that people were like, no, but there is a purpose for house shows, and every wrestler clearly enjoys house shows, and I'm like, but don't know if that's totally true, even if I don't agree with that. I don't.
Roman,
thought
you
people-
think you're going to catch Roman at a house show? He's like, bro, leave me alone. I'll see y'all on
Roman
Monday
is
or
at
Friday.
home, bro.
And Roman did that big house show run like at the beginning of the year. He was working that big tour that they did. But for the most part, I mean, it all depends. It all depends on what people are after as performers, and but there is no one size fits all, and especially when you are a star that's of Moxley's caliber. Moxley's just like, nah. Every match, I run the risk of getting hurt, and if that's the case, I want everything I do to matter, and that's that for him. Cody, on the other hand, was like, no, I want to go work Seth Rollins 1,000 times. That's what we're good at. So that's that. Let's see. Matt says last West Coast Pro event was crazy. Nick versus Alex and Titus versus Alec Price was crazy. Can't wait for Nick versus Titus in February.
Appreciate that, Matt. Yeah, I was there live. It was a great show. A lot of really great developments. Nick Wayne, seeing him live. If you've never seen this kid live, he can work like no other. He just gets it. He has instincts. He has footwork. He's in there with the veteran like Alex Shelley. And Alex Shelley is...
Wait, that's the Nick versus Alex it was saying? Nick Wayne versus Alex Shelley. I just saw Nick versus Alex.
Yeah,
Nick Wayne...
Shelley. Yeah. It was incredible. Alex Shelley, if you can see this guy live too, he I can't understand the little great things that he does. Like, moves and shit are awesome. I love it. You guys know me. I love spots. I love it. But just the little intricacies he throws in between moves, how he has a great match with a 17-year-old kid. It's amazing. And then Titus Alexander, the West Coast Pro Champion, incredible talent, gonna be signed very soon. If he's not, I'd be surprised. Like I said, reminds me of a 2002 AJ Styles. Just really gives off the vibes. Seeing Alec Price live was incredible. Great guy. I love that he has a lot of banter in his matches. Like, he's just talking shit the whole time. And if anybody's talking shit and in a small venue where you can really hear everything, great shit. A lot of great talent at West Coast Pro. I had fun. I did some interviews. I talked some shit. It was great. If you haven't seen West Coast Pro, please check it out. If you're going to be in the area.
That show was sold out yesterday, wasn't it?
It was. If you're going to be in the area for Revolution, when AEW's here, they're doing a show on March 4th here in South San Francisco. So if you're going to be around, have a free day, definitely check out West Coast Pro if you're not going to be trying to get blown off the Golden Gate Bridge.
You said on March 4th?
March 4th, yeah.
I'll go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're coming.
I mean, I will be there for Revolution, yeah. So therefore, I'll go
Okay.
to West Coast Pro on
That's what I
the
meant.
4th.
You're coming to the Bay Area for the great Revolution events where we potentially will see Bryan Danielson facing off against the AEW World Champion Maxwell Friedman.
We will potentially.
I mean, he has to win.
Potentially, Phil. Potentially.
All right. Small Snippets of Life is asking the question. Will, what is your percentage post Rampage? All right. Let's get into this, shall we? Mercedes Moné. Moné. I mean, that's the thing is
that Dave clip where he's like Dave and Brian Alvarez, and he's like, no, it's I forget how Dave says it, but it's totally wrong. And he's like, no, this is how it is. It's like when he was trying to pronounce Ron Artest before, but he kept calling him Ron Arteezy. He's like, no, his name is Ron Arteezy, Brian, because Ron Artest was on Raw one time, and he's like, no, his name is Ron Arteezy.
Yo.
His name is Ron Arteezy, Brian. Dave Meltzer is so funny.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, because we say Monet, because, I think we've got kind of Janelle Monet and just various Monets stuck in the way our heads process it. But she says Monet. So therefore...
so Dave was right. I was wrong. Take everything back that I just said.
I mean, if you look at it, it looks like a French word, and if it's French pronunciation, it would be pronounced Monet.
Mm-hmm. But
it looks like Monet the way that it's spelled with the accent and everything. But
also her song is Monet.
No, the theme song is hot too, man. It has a very West Coast vibe. It has the like almost like crisscross sample. Almost reminds me of "Ain't No Future in Your Frontin'." It's great. I
I
think it
was
needs some
just
lyrics over it.
singing that this morning, by the way.
Yeah, so
So like literally, I was sitting here waiting for you guys before the show, and I was literally just singing "Ain't No Future in Your Front." That's so great. But anyway, and,
so it's Moné.
but it could be.
I don't know.
Either way,
Come
I
on
mean
the
that's
show
how
and
she
tell
pronounced
us
it.
How you
That's how she pronounced it in the
pronounce it,
ad
Sasha.
for Battle of the
Yes.
Valley as well. So
yeah.
Okay.
So either way, Mercedes Moné is officially in New Japan. She made her debut at Wrestle Kingdom. She came out after a very short. I was not expecting it to be that short, but after Kairi versus Tam Nakano, it was a 5-minute match, and after it was over, Mercedes' music hits. She makes her way down, and she confronts. She hits a finish, and I mean, we got to talk about that. It's a thing that everybody has kind of had on their minds. I don't put the execution of that necessarily. I think it was just bad communication. That happens in pro wrestling.
Yep.
It's you never want it to be the first. You never want it to be part of your big debut moment for sure. I think that like obviously it was a miscommunication because Kairi goes down way too quickly, and then I think even once she realizes it, then kind of like oversells to make up for that. And like I wasn't even like sure what. I wasn't sure what happened in that moment when I watched it live. And then Mercedes grabs the mic and makes the challenge. She's coming after the IWGP Women's Championship, San Jose. Let's go.
yeah, I thought the debut was very good. I think people that are like over criticizing the execution of the move, I think that is a minuscule part of the debut because everything else about it was great. I thought the reveal for her music was great, and just how like we didn't see anything at first except like the car pulling up, and then it did like the reveal of her face and the name. I thought all of that was very well produced. I thought her gear looked amazing. I saw on her Instagram that the gear was made by fashion designer Michael No, who, if you don't know, has done work for like Lizzo and like all these other like pop stars, like Lady Gaga. I saw like all these other like this is like
Where-
a huge deal for her to get
where-
like gear from him.
Where her husband at?
I know, but I thought all of that stuff was great. I thought the way she looked was great. I thought the promo she actually
Oh,
cut,
we know, Phil. We saw your face.
yeah, I thought the promo looked great. I thought the promo sounded great. I thought them having the match ready for February 18th was the move. And I know people are going to be like, "Oh, but the match was so short." I really feel like this was all basically to go like we are making inroads into the U.S. market with women's wrestling, and I don't like that they kind of used a built-in story with Tam and Kairi that they had been building up since Kairi came back to Stardom to do that. But at the same time, I understood what New Japan was trying to do here. I think New Japan was just basically trying to build an audience and also say like, yeah, we are really trying to make serious inroads into the U.S. Could it have been better? Absolutely. It's the same with like the execution of the move. Could it have been better? Absolutely. Could everything have gone perfectly? Absolutely. But you know, we all know that even if it did, people would still find things to complain about.
Definitely.
I thought the debut was great. I think that just the fact that we also learned that like stuff like the wig has been done since June. I'm like, no, she has been preparing for this for months. Like the fact that they had that merch ready and everything the next day, all of the merch looks hot. No, she's been preparing for this for a while. And so when you get into the AEW stuff, if you then tell me that she's been preparing for this day with New Japan. I mean, everything to a T that she did in Japan looks like she has been planning for a while.
Right.
I do not buy that there has not been plans for her with AEW for a while. Right. I don't buy it. And I don't think this is the last minute thing. Maybe I don't think she signed yet because based on how we know AEW does things, usually they sign people the same day. And I'm not even sure if she's going to sign, but I do believe that she was planned as the tag partner.
Yeah, that's what I said on Day After Dynamite this week, that I don't believe the match was announced without thinking it was her. Now, could something have changed? Sure. Do I think something changed? I don't know.
What were the because I didn't see Rampage, what were the developments? Did Cheetah turn full heel last night, or
there were no developments?
There were no developments.
The match is still confirmed as Toni Storm. Okay.
Which is interesting because she had tweeted that she was there last night, so she at least did something. She didn't work dark, so but she did tweet that she was in Portland and she was at the arena. I don't know what she did, but I am curious about that.
I definitely think that there is a bit of working going on here because I do not believe, just like I'm saying, I don't think that she would have been planning all this time. I don't believe they would have dropped that boss line on TV.
I mean, there's a couple of things that like I said, I don't believe that the segment of having Sheeta essentially annoyed by the way she wasn't picked, and even like zooming in on Renee's face of like, the fuck, that's what you're doing? Okay.
Yeah, and it was very on the nose. The fact that they retweeted what Sheeta said afterwards on her own Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they've been making memes out of it of like, Sheeta's clearly pissed about this. Like they're definitely hammering that home. But at the same time, like not leaving it a mystery going into Dynamite, I think that's exactly what I said they should do if it's not. Yes. Right? So
expectations are set, you know what I mean? Like it can only be
like there is a match now.
Right.
Yeah, there is a match now. So I will talk about what I've asked about, what I've gotten answers on, and what I still have not gotten answers on. As in, when I have asked about, simply put, are there plans to bring in Mercedes? Fucking no sold every time. I get left on red. I get nothing, no response. And then something else will just come up the next day. And if I respond to that, then it's, the conversation will continue, whatever. Because I can get all the info about ratings, anything, but Mercedes has been a tricky topic. And so that tells me that there is at least silence around it. Like there is a desire to make something happen. And that tells me there's some kind of plan afoot that, or at least, like I said, a desire to make it happen. Mm-hmm. I have yet to, because even, one of the questions I asked a couple of weeks ago and I didn't get an answer on was, will the match still be a mystery going into January 11th? As in, when we walk in on January 11th, will we be questioning whether or not this is a mystery? Mm-hmm. And I didn't get an answer on that. So something tells me that they definitely didn't want it to be a mystery. I think about the way Tony answered last week when we had him literally here on this show. And
yeah.
So there's that piece of it.
Right. You got
what
a
is my
clarification on like the Dave Meltzer thing too, right? About him saying that he was like, everybody in the match says it's not her.
Well, he didn't say everybody. He said, I talked to people in the match.
Which
I thought was a head scratcher of a statement to make.
Right.
Because typically you don't want, and I can believe that he misspoke on that. And Brian Alvarez said he misspoke because at that point you're somewhat really outing sources in that regard.
Right,
and I say that because, if I say I talked to somebody high up in AEW, that narrowed it down to like 20 people. But if you say I talked to somebody in a match that only has 3 people announced, you kind of narrowed that down to a small set of people. And, Brian talked about the fact that there was heat on them after Dave made that statement. Can confirm that was the case because as far as I know, there were flat denials as far as having talked to him. And I think it was kind of a misspeaking as far as that was concerned because they're like, no, not us.
Not me.
And like I said, again, I don't think Dave would have made that small of a statement as far as who he would have talked to. Like clearly, I will say directly if I'm talking about, hey, spoke to Swerve because obviously that's somebody I talk to on the regular, and so that's one of those ones that won't be narrowed down so much. But if I say, hey, I talked to somebody in AEW, that could be anybody, right? Because I don't necessarily want anybody pointing the finger at that. I don't want it narrowed down. And the only reason you would ever give any specificity on that kind of thing is if you want to lend credence to the statement's value, right? If I say I talked to somebody high up in AEW, that is really just to remind you of how much there is behind the statement, that obviously it matters a little bit more than if I talk to the janitor. And so that's why you would make that statement. As far as having talked to anybody in the match, I think Brian's right that I think you misspoke in that regard, and I'm hoping that's the case. Me, guys, I always give benefit of the doubt. I don't like to say anybody's lying or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
We
are definitely not sitting here saying that.
Yeah, I try to assume
Right.
correct intent on things and that sometimes you just make mistakes. That's why I wasn't going to jump in on the Cora Jade stuff, right? Like, I don't think she was tweeting at Sky Blue. I do think it was just an ill-timed tweet, and that's all. But as far as the percentage now, because going into Dynamite, I said 100%. And I said 100% because I was thinking about, again, I don't know a whole lot. But what I do know is I do know what was out there. I do know that we'll talk about the fact that Mercedes, right before that, had said, this is my first stop. Right, she said that in the press conference, and so that made everybody go, "Oh, first stop."
Yeah, she did the airport picture last night. Did you guys see that?
Mm-hmm. She also had stated, and then WWE is now actively removing her from everything. They have pulled her from the website. They have also pulled. She's no longer promoted on the SmackDown graphic on the Fox app. They replaced her with Ronda Rousey, which I think is an interesting lineup they've got there, by the way, because now the 3 people on the SmackDown graphic are Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, and Charlotte Flair. And when I look at that, I was just like, man, this is the whitest cover I've ever seen in my life, for one. And 2, Brock ain't even on this show. Why is it Brock front and center? Like Roman is the champ. I know he's not here as much either, but he's here more than Brock. Right. Like Brock's appearances have actually mostly been on Raw lately. What are we doing? Why is Brock front and center? Why did you replace Sasha with Ronda, but you left Brock front and center? That part just didn't make any sense.
Because they still see Brock as a top draw. That's why.
But like his last appearances have all been on Raw. Like he's been feuding with Bobby Lashley.
And if he shows up, he's beating whoever else you think is a top guy because that's the priority they put Brock at. But I last night definitely told me that people were not feeling Ronda because the fact that Charlotte got a "Thank you, Charlotte" chant was like, ooh, maybe people were not liking the Ronda stuff more than I thought.
No, they were way out on that. And I like how Ronda's just like, yeah, I don't care about the SmackDown Women's title. Like, why would you say that? That's not the thing you say. She was like, yeah, maybe me and Shane will go after the tag titles. And that was like, okay. I in all honesty, that's a good thing, actually. That's a kind of a great team, and I think the division needs more anything because it really is just damage control. So I actually would like to see Ronda and Shayna do something like that. That's a good duo.
I'm sure Shayna wants to work with Dakota as well. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. So, but I just think the idea of just being like, yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I lost the belt. Moving on. Like that's the opposite of the way you're supposed to tell that kind of story in pro wrestling. Everybody should care.
Yeah,
you have to sell the effect.
The Ronda stuff is all over the place right now. I don't know
Yeah.
what they're doing.
But anyway, percentage. It's a downgrade, a huge downgrade on percentage. I have officially moved to about 60 is where I'm back at. And the reason for that is coming out of Rampage, not addressing it at all, basically just commentary being like, match is happening. It's Toni Storm. She's the partner. I have one more question I'm going to lay out to AEW, and that is going to affect the percentage massively. And I haven't asked this one yet, and I'm not going to say what the question is, but it does. It is one that I think a statement was made to me not too long ago about, and it wasn't in any official capacity, but it talked about AEW's ability to read the crowds and read audiences, and how, for the most part, they haven't missed lately on reading how an audience is going to react. That they know, okay, this is what this crowd's going to do. They can even pinpoint what they're going to chant when they chant it. They're pretty good at reading the audience, despite the fact that these audiences have been crazy hot, crazy loud, doing what they're going to do. The fact is, they're not going against the grain. They're not. They're really good at anticipating the crowd's reactions. So I do have questions about crowd anticipation for LA, and that will give me kind of everything.
Well, that's what made some of the stuff when Dave and Brian talked about it, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian said that they only showed one of the women's segments to the live crowd. They didn't show both. That's interesting. Why would they do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I still think there's a plan here. I don't know what it is. I think that it's very telling that two of their biggest signings from last year got leaked immediately. And that's the Bryan one and, of course, Punk. And, of course, it helped them, the Punk thing being leaked, because it helped them sell tickets. And I feel like the same thing happened here with New Japan and Mercedes. Mercedes was basically, and I part of me watching Wrestle Kingdom on the 4 or 5 was thinking like, boy, this would have been better if we didn't know about it. But at the same time, I understand why they may have wanted people to know about it.
I mean, we got them numbers back, and it showed that people really tuned into it. So, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I get the point of that. So a part of me is kind of like, maybe they don't want this spoiled, and maybe this is to counteract any leaks, and this is why they're being so mum on it. But at the same time, it is very strange that it seems like there's been like a little bit of backpedaling off of it, but at the same time, I'm not sure. It's just it's interesting. It's interesting everything that's going on, but I do still think that there is a plan here, because if there wasn't, Britt does not drop that boss line on TV and very clearly wink into the camera.
In a pre-tape as well, like in a way where somebody would have said, "Hey, maybe that's not a good idea to tease people with that.
Cut that.
Let's cut that." So
yeah, so it's just a few things about this that makes me think there's a plan here. Mercedes is clearly back in the U.S. Like I said, she dropped the airport picture yesterday, so she is back in the U.S.
Yeah, so like that's one of the things that I didn't agree with Dave on, that the statement of she's not in L.A. And I thought,
yeah, that was
my immediate reaction to that was, neither is Kenny. He like very clearly just worked New Year's Dash, and he is on the card for L.A. this week.
Yeah, Kenny just
you
dropped
guys
the
think
Dakota
that-
picture today. So
Do you guys think that since they announced?
Why
this
did I think
match
you
for
said
February-
Dakota?
Yeah,
No, the
that sounds
Ibushi.
I know what you
Dakota,
meant.
yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
wait,
Dakota.
what?
But
Yeah,
do you
I
guys
got
think
it.
that since they announced the title match for February, that like they want that to be her first match officially? Maybe they did. Maybe there was something in the plans where they were like, we don't want her first match to be this tag match. We want her first official match out of WWE to be the title match in February with Kyrie. You know,
Maybe.
like that could be a thing. That could play a role now because that kind of dropped my thing because like. If she's supposed to be this big star and getting this money for New Japan, they're gonna want the first match that she gets out of WWE, I would assume, you know. So I could kind of go with somebody said earlier in the super chat about how she comes after the match. Maybe she's not in the match, but she still appears on Wednesday in LA.
I'll say this: there's been big ticket movement on that show, regardless for LA.
Yeah.
I'm still contemplating going to that. I mentioned,
Yeah.
I contemplated that. So this is what I said on Ask Grapsody for those who haven't seen it. My whole thing is we have the Fightful Awards coming up on Thursday, and no flight would have me back in time for that. I would either have to miss the beginning of it, and I don't want to because it's something I've worked really hard on, or
Come on,
I'd have
man.
to
We're professionals around here. Who misses the first part of the show?
or I would have to do the show from LA, which is possible too. So because I mean, I did this show from my brother's shoe closet in LA. That is definitely doable.
And Denise lives in LA too, right?
And Denise lives in LA, right? So
Yeah.
I could also just, I'm sure she would let me do the show from her house. But I've been trying to figure that out. I do have a ticket to the show in LA. It's just a matter of, do I use it? Is how I've looked at that.
Yeah.
And-
That is a great point. That this could be New Japan going like, we want first dibs on this first match, and so maybe she's not in a match, maybe it's an appearance. I don't know.
Right.
I do think that there's a plan for something though. I don't think that this is just
Me too.
like she's not the mystery partner, so that means Mercedes isn't coming at all. I don't believe that.
Right. Yeah, it could be a thing.
I mean, I guess we'll see. I don't. So there's been a whole bunch of talk about, she's just getting this out of her system and is going to head back to WWE. Entirely possible.
Maybe.
But I also think that if that's the case, and it were done with, say, WWE's blessing, I think that she would just be using Sasha Banks as a name.
Yeah. And I understood that part that Dave was saying that, they think that she's just going and doing all this stuff and she'll be back, because of course that's what they think. They as a company probably think everybody will be back. They'll be back.
Right.
We're the biggest game in town. What are you gonna do? Go and wrestle in some bingo halls for a while, have your fun, come back. And so I'm sure that's what they think. But at the same time, just the way she's moving, and before I say all of this, I don't doubt that Sasha Banks may go back and be a WWE wrestler at some point. But the way she's moving, the way everything came out the day after Wrestle Kingdom, the way she was front and center on all that New Japan stuff, the graphic, the commercial they had lined up for Battle in the Valley, the pro wrestling tease, everything dropped. No, she's been planning this for a minute, and I think she is like, nah, this is the move now. I don't think she's thinking about being Sasha Banks at all at the moment.
Yeah. And I think that the fact that she filed the trademarks when she did, I mean, either way, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and that's the part that I kind of don't like about where we are as wrestling fans. That people are like, oh well, she's just gonna go and do this. It's just same Sasha. She's cutting a WWE's promo. She's still botching. Like, fam, this is her dream to go to Japan. Just be happy for her, man. Like, as I say all the time, support the wrestler, man. Like, it doesn't matter if she's not wrestling for your favorite company. I think that what she's doing is dope. I mean, just look at it this way. We haven't seen women wrestling a dome at a New Japan show officially in any capacity for decades. I mean, yeah, I believe the Stardom match last year was better than the Stardom match this year, but at the same time, for them to bring in a wrestler and them to be this big of a draw and to be front and center on everything, and it's a black woman. That's a big deal, man. That's historic. And I feel like you got to give her props for demanding that kind of deal right out the gate. That just shows who she is. And the fact that that night, and I'm a big New Japan guy, that night, all I saw was Mercedes all over the timeline. Like, nobody was talking about anything else on the show for a good hour until, like, Osprey and Omega, like, tore the house down. But no, I feel like the biggest moment from that show was their match and Mercedes. Yeah, I think that's very telling.
I want to read the super chat really quick because it actually relates to that. We got a super chat from this one is damn it. There it is. Coffee Black says the crew watching Wrestle Kingdom was interesting. Also, I got a chance to check out Dream Queendom and it was top tier. I am hooked.
Dream Queendom was a very good show.
And as far as the crew watching Wrestle Kingdom, it's interesting because I want to see more wrestling exposed to more people. I think that it's always a good thing to grow bases, and I hope for every member of the crew that saw New Japan and went, well, why do they do this way? Or why do they do this way? This isn't for me. I hope that one person, I hope at least one saw it and went, oh, this is interesting that they do it this way. I kind of like this. I might give this a shot. I think the more people that see other ways of presenting pro wrestling is always a good thing. And I hope that we do see more and more people get that kind of exposure to it. I think people kind of didn't get what I was saying on Day After Dynamite because I was trying not to be gatekeepy about it because I don't want to be a gatekeeper about it. I want people to give all wrestling a chance. I just want to make sure that you are open-minded about it and not holding it to what you want or what you see from other companies. In the same way where if you are an AEW fan and you sit down and watch WWE for the first time, and it's weird to think that 4 years in, that could now be a thing with like kids.
Sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy, but at the same time, the more the years go on, the more that there is going to be a base that is kind of solidified in one or the other.
Yeah. I've seen a few of these. I'm surprised at this point that people don't know this. The crew is Sasha fans. They are like devout Sasha stans. It's a reference to her bodyguard from NXT that had the shirts on that says Sasha's crew. And so that's what Sasha's fans call themselves, the crew.
Is everything okay, Will Washington? Yes or no? Hello? Everything okay?
Yeah. You all right, buddy? But yeah, I think people that watched this, and I also saw people that were saying she didn't get any pop, and I'm like, there is no pop at New Japan shows. They don't react to wrestling the same way that American fans do.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I stepped on my mic cord and it unplugged everything. And so I couldn't hear you guys and I couldn't I couldn't be heard.
But yeah, I thought people that were like, oh, she didn't get a reaction, and people that have been conditioned to think that reactions are the way to gauge impact because that's American wrestling and that's what we see everywhere else. No, they don't really do pops like that in New Japan or Japanese wrestling because Japanese crowds are more polite. Like that's why they're still doing the clapping. They don't really.
You get more
chants.
oohs and ahs.
They don't do chants and they don't do stuff that other crowds
awesome
do.
And shit.
Yeah. So I wasn't expecting her to get like this like huge raucous reaction just because it's a Japanese crowd, and then too like this is a crowd that has been conditioned to not have women's wrestling for decades. So you have to bring them along slowly to get them to care about the women's stars. And it's happening, it's working, but you're still building a new audience. So I thought people that were like, she didn't get a reaction, so ha, shows her. Like, no, like, look at those numbers. No, look at everything else that happens. Like, no, Mercedes is still her. Like, don't try to do that.
And I think that show is going to sell out in San Jose. Smiley says, "Morning, boys. Happy New Year. Getting the claws done. Then it's time for a drink. Mercedes Moné was everything. I'm excited. Hi, Reggie."
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time to be a
What's up,
wrestling fan,
Tracy? Hello, Tracy, my friend. Happy New Year. Love you.
Let's see. We got. Let's read a few more. Wanga says, "Good day, fellas. Wrestle Kingdom / New Year's Dash felt like New Japan saying welcome back after the last couple years. Being an Aussie wrestling fan pays off when it comes to the Japanese show times. I bet it does, because this guy being up at 5 a.m. And even later for Phil. As a matter of fact, Reg got the earliest time of it all, and it still ended at 4:30 for you. And then the hard part for me, and I tweeted this, I was like, must resist late night snacking, because I'm like, man, I just want to eat something, but I know that like I shouldn't like snack at night, but also, man, do I want to. And I ended up just like making some popcorn.
It was interesting, like ending at, because I'm like, damn, this thing's gonna end at 4:30 a.m. But like after Osprey and Omega, I was like, hype. I'm like, damn, I can't go to sleep now. This shit done got me all the way up. So at 4:30, I'm still like, I need more.
Really, really great show, man. I mean, if you are excited by Wrestle Kingdom like I am every year, and I feel like it's usually the best time to be a wrestling fan in January, I thought we got a great show. I think the junior tag match that opened the night was Leo busting his face open, and man, they killed it. I thought Leo and Yo were gonna win that thing, but still a really good tag match. The junior heavyweight match was incredible. I mean, Master Wato just giving it up with. I mean, come on, man. I mean, and I could see Hiromu and Desperado wrestle every night and not get tired of it. It's just incredible. Really good show.
Well,
I mean,
and we'll talk about the big one in a moment, because I have some things to say about that. I want to read a couple more super chats. Anime Otaku says, does anyone else see Kenny's influence in the Jade finish on Rampage, specifically Croyd's Wrath in the setup? Yeah, actually. I even saw somebody posted the video side by side, and I was like, yep, I can definitely see that. And Chi-Town Spurs says, Stokely quoting Baldwin and repping the Bloods in the same promo. Is there a bigger Renaissance man in pro wrestling? That man, I tweeted, protect this man, because he ended a promo hyping up LA with "Swoop Whoop," and I was like, no, don't do that. What are you doing?
Man of culture.
I was like, at first I was like, that popped me, but then I thought, ooh, in LA?
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily the place I'd drop a swoop, but it's Stokely. He could get away with that. And I like the amount of culture Stokely.
Nobody can get away with that.
The amount of culture Stokely has brought to AEW, I think, and just brings to his promos in general, the references, little things like that, things that just pop the black man in me, which is me, is great. I love it, and it's nobody else really does that in general. I mean, I feel like that's the thing I used to get from the New Day, where like they'd make a reference that I know that only black fans would get, or at least people who follow black culture would get, and it is fun seeing Stokely be that guy right now.
Yeah.
We got another from Snippets of Life that says, cannot wait for an AEW pay-per-view in Detroit to annoy Phil.
Terrible.
Keep waiting.
Terrible city, terrible basketball team.
Hey, speaking of which, the Nuggets beat Cleveland last night. The Cleveland that, and now granted, they missed like 15 free throws and I think lost by, 14? So that very well could have made up the difference in the game. But fact is, for as good as Cleveland's been doing, again, Nuggets won.
I don't want to talk about Cleveland because we had that game 1 against Cleveland. Had a nice little comeback going. Rosen missed that game winner, and I was like, all right, well, we just coughed it up. And then they put out that whack ass report a few days later and said that should have been a foul. And I was like,
They did.
whatever.
I felt for you in that. I mean, I am happy for Cleveland as a team just because I've wanted to see Cleveland succeed without LeBron, and they're doing so right now. Like, they're still number 4 in the East.
They look great.
And when you think about the team,
1 points, didn't he?
Yo, Spider's out here killing it, man. He's, of course, put up that 70 points on us. Yeah.
But hey, now granted, a lot of people are saying Chuck never knows what he's talking about, but I will always take a compliment from Chuck. But when Charles said on Wednesday that the Nuggets have the deepest team in the NBA, and that
he's not wrong.
And he said basically he implied it's the Western Conference is theirs to win, and
I don't know if I would say it's theirs to win, but I do think they have
or theirs to lose more so. It's more like, look, they are number 1 right now. Of course, they're neck and neck with the Grizzlies, but at the moment, Nuggets are number 1, and it is nice to feel this way about my fucking team, guys, because last year was a good year. Year before was even better. But like, I just want to see them do it. They get so close, so fucking close, but they're still
Just
not
gonna
a single.
sit back. I'm gonna let you cook. I'm gonna let you eat for a couple weeks and let you do your thing. Enjoy it. Have fun. But you know what time it is.
I mean, I do see latter season Warriors have decided to show up finally because the Warriors went from bottom of the conference to all of a sudden number 6 with a winning record, and how they've managed to turn that around is actually really astonishing.
Talking about turnaround, the Brooklyn Nets.
The Nets are number 2.
Are contenders again. And I mean, this organization was in shambles at the beginning of the season, and now they look like a real threat. And they look scary. So I don't know. It's up in the air. I
know the East, I think, has a much deeper field in terms of like it's a who's who as far as who could come out number 1 in the East.
It could still be Boston. There are a few teams that look good. But on the Warriors front, I've been in and out on Warriors games without Steph because they have moments where they look terrible. Sometimes they look good. I thoroughly enjoyed the Christmas game because there's nothing better than trash talking between players and then comeuppance. And
Yes.
the way the Grizzlies acted like this was just like, no, this is their game to win on Christmas Day. They acted like they were going to beat them in the playoffs, and they still lost. And they were like, nah, we'll see y'all on Christmas. We're going to show y'all. And then got completely dog walked. And Clay trash talking, not just in the game, after the game, was amazing. Him following dude through his entire fall, trash talking him all the way down to the ground. Incredible. I loved it.
Yes. That fucking stutter step shit, that was hilarious.
My only thing with the Nuggets that's going on right now, and it's unfortunate, not for me, but for everybody else, it's speaking solely in Denver, is that somebody mentioned how, Nuggets don't have real fans because because you can't watch Nuggets games in Denver. You can only watch them nationally, which is slightly true. Because, of course, Nuggets games air on Altitude Sports. Altitude Sports is owned by Stan Kroenke, who owns the Denver Nuggets, so therefore he airs it on his own network. So that's the only place to watch them. We are in year 4 of a carriage dispute between Comcast and Altitude. So if you are a Comcast cable subscriber, which is the majority of people in Denver who have cable, you cannot watch Nuggets games. You can only watch them on DirecTV, and I think Dish might have them as well.
Can you watch Nuggets games on NBA TV then? Like if you have the
Blacked
league
out.
pass, you can't watch it?
No.
Yeah,
Now,
that's horrible.
I have DirecTV, so I haven't missed a game. But I do get how if you are a Comcast subscriber, you do not get games. And that's mainly the reason I've kept my DirecTV through everything else. I have DirecTV stream.
That's
but the
horrible.
Main reason I've kept it is because I'm not missing Nuggets games and nobody else will get them to me. And so I know that if I'm going to watch these games, I have to keep my DirecTV. Even as they've lost so much and I'm like, and the price keeps going up, I'm like, damn, but the Nuggets, I can't miss my game. Same with the Avalanche. Avalanche also, if you're a hockey fan, they only air on altitude. And so you do not get those games if you don't have altitude. And Comcast has been kind of a bitch about that. And they talk so much shit too. Like they have commercials now during altitude where they're just like, hey, fuck Comcast, right? Get yourself DirecTV. DirecTV be offering deals too. They're like, hey, tell us you're a Nuggets fan and we'll take $20 off your bill.
Listen, I'm not getting no satellite dish just to watch my local team.
That's like I said, I got DirecTV Stream. I stream it all. So I don't have to do none of that. I literally just log into an app and watch, and that's good enough for me. But I get it if you don't have. I mean, you'd have to have a strong internet connection. But at this stage, it works on my fucking phone on my 5G. So
I can't believe it's not at least on League Pass. That's crazy.
Nope. If you try to watch a Nuggets game on League Pass, you'd have to use a VPN to watch Nuggets games on League Pass, which is easy. NordVPN is a Fightful sponsor, so if you are a Nuggets fan and do want to watch on League Pass, just get yourself NordVPN and then throw on.
Stands for that, are we? Fightful's game.
No, we're not. So Fightful does. But either way, and then watch your games anywhere, because you could just say you live in Argentina and you're watching all the Nuggets games you want, or any team. You won't get the blackouts through League Pass. So that was the League Pass was my go-to when I lived in Detroit back in 2011. There's no way I wasn't signing up for League Pass. My wife got it for me for my birthday, as a matter of fact, as like, hey, I know you don't want to miss your Nuggets game, so here you go.
What are you gonna watch Detroit Pistons games in Detroit? Because nobody liked the Detroit Pistons.
Detroit fans don't like the Detroit Pistons, and that's
they do. I know a lot of
they do now. Like, it all depends. They're so in and out on their teams because, like, the thing that matters most in Detroit, I learned, is college football more than anything else. They don't care about no sports more than it's two things: Red Wings hockey and college football. Those are the two things, and those are the things I cared the least about, is like hockey and college football. And so when I would meet people and I'd want to talk to them about sports, and they're like, yeah, you watching the football game? And I'm like, yeah, the NFL. And they're like, well, who gives a shit about the Lions? We're talking about,
that I wouldn't watch the Detroit Lions either.
They're like, no, this is about Michigan, or this is about Michigan State. Who gives a shit about the NFL? NFL, who cares about that?
Yeah, I'm sure they do feel about that way in Detroit.
Or it's all hockey. Everybody, that's the only place I know black hockey fans is in Detroit. We had X3 on the show. He is a massive, massive Detroit Red Wings fan.
Yep.
I have seen 3 entire hockey games in my life, and I was at 2 of them.
Come on, man. Hawks, baby. Dynasty in this city.
and one of them was a field trip, and that was like the first thing our teacher pointed out that nobody wanted to say. I think I've told the story on the show. It's one of my favorite stories, where we had to write about our experience at this hockey game, and everybody had to talk about what we saw and didn't see. And the teacher was looking for one answer, and nobody was saying it. But he's like, what else did anybody notice at this game? Anybody? And he goes, no one's just going to say it, huh? There weren't very many brothers at this game, were there? And this is the whitest man possible, right? So think about him saying, he was like, you didn't see many of the brothers at this game. And I laughed my ass off. I nearly fell out of my seat. This is in the 9th grade. I was just like dying. Shout out to Bill Shive, the teacher at the time. He was also a football coach, but still one of my favorite stories.
I still think one of the greatest things Chance the Rapper has ever given us is that SNL skit of him being at the hockey game. If you've ever seen it,
I haven't seen that one.
It is hilarious. He is a reporter, and he is reporting live from the hockey game. It's hilarious.
I'll check that out because I don't know. I haven't been to many hockey games. I live at Ball Arena. I've been to that arena at least 100 times. Never. I've seen one hockey game there, and then I tried to keep up with it because, of course, our local team just won the Stanley Cup last year. Like, so I kept up with it in that sense, but like background noise. Myron says, speaking of Sol Ruka, her finisher is sick. Will definitely get her over in the long run. RH says, Sky Blue tore it up with Athena and Thunder Rosa at that Warrior Wrestling triple threat. And if Tony hasn't signed the Renegade Twins, he needs to. They had a good showing last night, too.
They look great. Yeah, I thought both those tag matches from Rampage were great. I feel like this was one of the better Rampages in a long time. Not just because the matches were good, but the Portland crowd brought it.
Yeah, no, I thought, Portland, you can tell the whole Northeast was just starved for pro wrestling, or specifically for AEW, because thinking about how good of a crowd Seattle was, but thinking about how good of a crowd Portland was as well. And Portland, I was worried for Portland. I was like, oh, they're only getting a Rampage. I don't know how they're going to feel about that. And, like, will they show up? And they showed up and they showed out. Like, it was a really, really great crowd. Yeah, no, and I thought Battle of the Belts was a great show. So, but Shane Monster says, Rampage Battle of the Belts 5, showcasing losing talent, great last night. Top Flight, Renegades, Mike Bennett. Mike Bennett had a great showing too. God, I love Mike Bennett and him getting to go out there and do Boston Strong Style against Darby. Great stuff. Satnam is another one who I'm turning the corner on Satnam Singh. I think that that double choke slam he hit on the Acclaimed, and then the way he choke slammed Mike Posey. And, you know, when Mike Posey came out, my immediate thought was, that guy's never on TV. And, like, he only ever works dark because I know he does more, like, behind-the-scenes stuff. But they brought him out, and even Jericho yells, Mike Posey, when's the last time we've seen him on TV? And I thought, yeah, it is weird. And then when he took the choke slam from Satnam Singh, I'm like, yeah, no one else was going to take that bump. This was Mike Posey's to take. And I get it now. But yeah, Sky and Kip Sabian looked great too. I thought that was Kip's best showing since he's been back. And
yeah, there was a lot of interference in that main event. At some points, I was just like, go backstage, guys. I know you. Come on, like everybody, chill out. Let's all go backstage. Like let's all go back and let's hang out in catering. Like it's just too much interference. But I thought the match in itself was really good when it was focused on the people in the ring.
Mm-hmm. Young Boy says Nick Khan, Stephanie, and Triple H versus Vince feels like John Connor, Sarah Connor, and the Terminator versus the T-1000. Shout out Terminator 2, one of the best movies of all time. And
yeah,
although in hindsight, why was that movie marketed to kids so much? Like, I remember like commercials for like the action figures and all that stuff. That was an R-rated movie. Nobody gave a shit at all. They were like, nah, we are gonna sell Terminator 2 to children. And we don't give a fuck about
the first scene of the movie. The bro pulls up naked, doesn't he?
He does.
I mean, look, Terminator 1 was like some of the first like movie titties I ever saw, and so that. And so I don't know, but that movie was like hugely marketed to children, and I think about that a lot of how much we knew about Terminator.
There were a lot of things in the 90s marketed to kids.
I ever saw was Murder Was the Case, the Snoop Dogg fucking home video.
Mm-hmm.
But there's titties in that. I was watching it with my mom too. It was real weird. Very weird. But yeah, shout out to movie titties.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was marketed to us in the 90s that was not for us.
No, absolutely not. And they just did not give a fuck. They were just like, nah, you want Terminator action figures, you want RoboCop. Like, that was not a kid's movie either, but we loved RoboCop.
I mean, wrestling was hugely marketed to us, and in the 90s, a lot of that shit was not for us.
Nope. Nah, nobody cared at all back then. We got a whole lot more. Thank you, everybody who's been sending these super chats and humper chats. I'm gonna try and get through these, and then we're gonna talk Vince. Which I'm sorry that we have to do that. But Jake Salazar says, honestly, CM Punk on TV every week averaging 1 million. But if you work it out and have CM Punk and Mercedes, I'm saying around 1.5. I don't know, because growing wrestling is like tough, right? Because as good as SmackDown's doing right now, SmackDown's still not where they started. SmackDown, the first episode on Fox did 4 million viewers, and it's doing really great right now. No denying that, especially the episode with Cena last week did a great number, and Raw's been fairly stagnant. Raw had a bit of a boost when Hunter first showed up, but it's pretty much year over year kind of the same as where it was last year, which is better than dropping. You don't want to see the red. If you can see at least everything's the same, that's better than anything else.
Yeah, I'm not a numbers guy.
But my point about the numbers is that wrestling growth has been really difficult. Like, no wrestling brand is in terms of the number of viewers is doing better than they were in a previous era. And so thinking about growing with pro wrestling, like, pro wrestling has got to, I know we talk about cable a lot. I literally was just talking about cable, but my God, there has to be, at some point, wrestling has to get out of the shadows of cable, and I don't know how they do. Like, the fact that the NFL has the deal with Amazon now, where you got Amazon Prime, you can watch games with us now, or you can watch the Thursday night football games. And really, as far as the NFL is concerned, there are no cable restrictions right now with the NFL at all. You can watch, your AFC games through CBS. You watch your NFC games through Fox. You watch your Sunday night games through NBC. And then your Thursday night games, you can watch them on Amazon. So then at that point, the NFL has gotten out of the confines and the restrictions of cable. Wrestling has got to figure that out. Like, Peacock was a really, really good strategy for WWE, because Peacock, just people having Comcast internet, Xfinity internet. I get Peacock, I have Xfinity. And just getting it in front of that many people was a good thing. I think if wrestling's ever going to grow in a meaningful way, they've got to figure that out. And I don't know what that is, but I'm also not paid to figure that out. So somebody who does. And I say that as I have a BET shirt on talking about cable, the renaissance of cable, baby. That was.
I don't know. I just don't care about numbers. To me, I just don't. Any of my excitement about Mercedes going there has nothing to do with numbers.
Oh, yeah. No, as far as I'm concerned, I like metrics just because it's the only tangible measurement of success in pro wrestling. I can say I liked the match. I can say I liked anything, but at the end of the day, that's just my personal enjoyment. As far as its success is concerned, the only tangible measurement is ratings. And because, like, WWE, of course, has revenue, and as a WWE stockholder, and I had a great day yesterday, by the way. That's part of why people look at revenue and things along those lines, because those numbers are public. AEW is not a public company. They don't have to disclose any of that shit. So then at that point, you don't have that to go off of with them.
Yeah.
So, but Jake Salazar says, y'all think they are main eventing Forbidden Door 2 with Osprey versus Omega's rematch? That would sell it, I think.
No.
No, you think it's Okada?
What's happening, buddy?
The Pro Wrestling Podcast says, hey guys, here's $5 for all your hard work. Thank you so much. Jake Salazar says, it's honestly hilarious to me that Triple H spent all this time undermining AEW just for him to be sitting in a cubicle come 2 weeks. I'm sitting here like, hey dog, you did it to yourself. I don't know if he's going to be sitting in a cubicle.
I don't know if I would say all that. That's a little bit far. He's definitely not sitting in any cubicle.
And he also says, Braun versus Dalla, modern day Mark Henry versus Big Show. Small Snippets of Life says, Tanahashi wrote on his blog that New Japan Strong is coming to an end in its format. A lot of Twitter speculation that it will be merged with ROH TV. I didn't think about that. Because, of course, Tony did say that there's something coming with ROH TV and that it was going to have something to do with New Japan. If I could see Ring of Honor TV, if he's willing to, like, kind of put that in Rocky's hands, it's not a bad idea.
No, not.
It's not
I don't know. I don't know what that means. And I mean, if if that's the case, I don't know what they're gonna do because they just established 2 sets of New Japan Strong titles. I don't know. And New Japan Strong was a good show. I don't know what that means though.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see, again, because I am one of the people curious as to what Tony meant by that, and he said we'd find out in January. We're only 7 days into January, so literally he still has a good 24 days left to let us know what that means. Mr. CJ Lilly says, it's hard for the other teams to feel good when the championships are tied up with Roman because at least the single star has the U.S. and IC titles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Pro Wrestling Podcast says Red Velvet was in Jade's first match, so it makes sense to me. Tim Gordon says, I'd love to see a multi-woman match with all the women Jade has beaten multiple times. Jade versus Willow versus Sky versus Velvet.
Yeah, I think that would be if Red Velvet doesn't beat her, I think that'd be a nice way to put her title and her streak in jeopardy, and it would be a cool way to keep all of those feuds kind of simultaneously going.
Yeah. And Derek Gordon says, so was that Jarrett Lethal fake out what TK was hinting at in the Grapsody interview when you guys mentioned the finger poke of doom? I could see that fake out being the case because I was wondering what he meant by that up and down the show. And yeah, I can see that. Mr. CJ Lilly says, I just hope Vince leaves creative. So far seems so. Graham B says AEW in Full Sail dead.
Yeah.
And Abdullah the Butcherhead says, speaking of TNA, wonder if Madison Rain put together Jade's match. She, Velvet Sky, and Angelina Love were so great as TNA's The Beautiful People.
I think Madison Rain her credit. I feel like a part of the women's division being better is her being there and coaching and the stuff she's doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably find out who produced that match. I didn't ask. Hala Basana says, my bet after Rampage, Moné video appearance on Wednesday. I mean, look, it's LA, man. This is one of the biggest, most historic venues in the history of venues, the fabulous Kia Forum. Like, it's one of those when you just look at an aerial shot of LA and you see that red building with the white pillars, like, you know that is the Kia Forum when you see it. Of course, it wasn't the Kia Forum before a year ago, but it was the fabulous Forum. Corey David says,
Great Western Forum.
I don't know, man. It's just certain things that I'm looking at from this. Like, you can hear the West Coast influences in her theme music. The fact that they're doing San Jose, and that is a callback to her first big match with Charlotte in San Jose. Nah.
Where her best friend
I
lives.
feel like...
let's see. Yeah, Corey says, where does Trinity go with Vince back? I mean, like, he's not involved in creative, at least at the moment. So we shall see.
Yeah,
Corey also says...
I was just going to say, I still think Naomi goes back regardless.
Yeah. Is there anyone in NXT who could fit in AEW? Plenty. NXT's biggest fault is not its talent; it's the presentation of the show.
Yeah, there are a bunch. I mean, right off the top of my head, Nathan Frazier would be great over there. He was there before he changed his name to Nathan Frazier.
And they let him main event that Tuesday Night Dynamite with Scorpio Sky.
Yeah, I mean, Mello would be great over there. There are a few guys.
Yeah.
Apollo.
Chicken Little Curry says, keep up the great work. Just want to say that Omega Okada team up in New Year's Dash was a great moment. Yeah, oh yeah, Kenny's reaction to the coin drop. Like, I haven't seen the whole show, but I've seen that entrance.
Listen, everything about it was great. I mean, one of the greatest things I noticed from this and just how great Kenny is at storytelling is that he told us in the build-up in the Trios tournament that he's not a good guy again. And, you know, maybe he'll get back to doing singles title stuff. Maybe he'll get back to that belt collector stuff because the belt collector stuff died when he lost to Hangman. But
you know what's interesting, by the way? So Kenny is officially a babyface in the sense that in AEW, on the rundowns, on the cards, he is marked as babyface. But Bryan Danielson's also marked as heel, and I think that's interesting as well. I'm literally, if I pull up a run sheet, which I do have one, where's the last one I had? Yeah, let's see. Bryan Danielson is still listed as a heel. And, of course, that determines what side you guys come out of. The wrestlers, when they enter, they know where they're marked. Bryan Danielson has been coming out of the heel tunnel since he turned heel last year and hasn't stopped coming out of the heel tunnel. Even with Blackpool Combat Club, everybody else comes out the babyface tunnel. He comes out of the heel. And that's because as far as he's listed on the cards, he is still listed as a heel. But the Bucks and Kenny, babyfaces. They are marked straight up babyface. There's, as far as the structure of the show is concerned, no question where they're supposed to be aligned.
Yeah, so it's just interesting things that I watched him do for 2 days. He came out at Wrestle Kingdom and he healed it up for most of that match. And then after the match was over, he did that press conference. He had the deranged look in his face with the black eye, and he was sitting there with the belt, and I was just like, belt collector's back, baby. You could see it all over his face.
Hey, I should have known because the graphic on his Tron did say the words belt collector came across, and I was just like...
belt collector's back. He got that first taste of singles wrestling again and gold again, and I was just sitting watching him as Okada's entrance. He watched Okada through his entire entrance with that big grin on his face, and then when he got next to him, he was sitting there staring at his belt.
Yeah.
Even after the match, and they had won, the referee handed him both belts. If you notice, Omega handed Okada the belt. I'm just saying, I think Omega Okada will happen this year, man.
Loster Mill says, do you think Shida will be involved in the match? And if so, that be Shida and a partner versus the other two teams, or should she join a team? I mean, I don't think she'll be involved in the match. I think that any type of change would happen before. There's a few other things I want to read here. Mr. CJ Lilly says DC split from Bailey and turn faces soon. I don't think soon. Bailey's wanted this faction for a while. Brent Lockman says, I trust TK, but I don't want to see Tony Storm get Rey Mysterio out of the building. That can't happen. I worry about that, and that's why I'm going to throw the question out that I have, and I will adjust percentages based on that. But right now, 60. Dream Ninja says, maybe they filmed Shida beating up Tony in a public place or something. It feels really bad to do something on Dynamite before the match.
Maybe. It depends on how they do it.
Because, I mean, just talking about the fact, I know what they meant, that she was there at Rampage last night and didn't do anything. What about the front row seats Britt gave Saraya? Now there's starting to be a question again. I am seeing people talk about that and the fact that there's still those tickets. Pro Wrestling Podcast says, going to Chipotle, you guys want anything? Yes, please, get me a burrito bowl. With every fucking thing because I am starving. I have not eaten today. Anime Otaku says, in addition to my suggestion on Dad, Stokely should return as Jade's publicist for when the streak snaps. He'd be Heyman's reaction to Taker versus Brock. I mean, look, I love the idea we talked about on Ask Grapsody of Jade losing at 50. So she become 49-1, but she thinks 50 is such a foregone conclusion that she has all the balloons and pyro and shit ready, and she like tells all the stage-hands before the match, get ready, hit it as soon as the match is over, and when she loses, all of it still hits, and like she gets like it needs to be like a flash pan, like a roll up or something, where she unexpectedly loses and all the stuff falls, and she's like, no, but the graphic says 49-1, and it's congratulations on 50, and it's a humiliating moment. But at the same time, did you hear the reaction last night? People don't want to boo her. They are into Jade now.
She's gonna get the 50 wins, buddy. It's
yeah. But at the same time, and I feel like they're like piling them on very quickly because she's 48-0 now, so she only needs 2 more. Let's see. Jeff Gator says, got to see Swerve perform after AEW on Wednesday. The crowd that showed up was the most unique audience I've seen at a rap show. Glad AEW finally came to Pacific Northwest. Yeah, he had a concert after. So that was the cool thing about again, AEW shows on the West Coast, especially when it's just Dynamite without Rampage. This shit gets out at 7. You have the rest of your fucking day, the rest of your fucking night to do things. So yeah, in Seattle they had a concert and people showed up to that, and so that's a really cool thing. And I think I'm gonna keep us caught up on the super chats for right now because this one from Black Phoenix brand. He says 3 things. 1, Vince is a real life supervillain. 2, Will being a Chris Cross fan further confirms he and I are multiverse variants of each other. And do you guys have wrestling bucket lists? And if so, what's on them? Wrestle Kingdom is on my bucket list, and I had so much FOMO watching the show this year that I'm feeling like, God damn it, next year I have to go. Chris Cross. Of course I'm a Chris Cross fan. Did I not like put that out there before Day After Dynamite? That like when I had the braids when I was a kid, that was because of Chris Cross. That I, are you kidding me? Totally crossed out. I know that album front to back, side to side. Love every little piece of that album. And I did have The Bomb as well, second album. And then I thought Young, Rich, and Dangerous was going to be their like big comeback. And I liked Young, Rich, and Dangerous. They had the remix of Tonight's the Night, Redman. And then it just didn't happen. But yes, a big Chris Cross fan.
Wrestling bucket list, of course, Wrestle Kingdom is on my bucket list. I've still never been to a Mania, but I feel like Wrestle Kingdom is higher on my bucket list than Mania. I still want to go to a Stardom show in Japan. That's still something I want to do. I think that's it. I mean, I've got other stuff on my bucket list that I'm blanking on, but those 3 things for sure.
You've never been to a Mania. That's super interesting. I didn't know that. I think Wrestle Kingdom's definitely on mine. Going to Japan will be super dope. And I haven't been to, I don't be really watching those guys over there, but I've never been to a Royal Rumble, so I think that'd be super cool to check out.
I've been to Mania and I've done Rumble, so like, I don't know. All of that does sound cool. And yeah, okay, I got to get caught up on these Humper chats because they're falling off the screen, and unless somebody shows me how, I don't know how to get them once they're gone. So if I missed yours, I'm really, really sorry. Because I'm starting to see we got so many. So we'll start with Kells. Kells says, quality being so high. Oh yeah, okay, we talked about that one. Good. So that's the last one that's on the screen. We did read that one. Thank you,
Kells. We caught up.
Yes. But that's like the last one. Everything above that, that's the one at the bottom of the screen. So if I don't get to the rest of them, they're going to fall off. But Pedro says, happy Saturday, Grapsody. I got to say, the Pacific Northwest really went off this week with Dynamite and Rampage. TK needs to come back with a pay-per-view in the future. We are hungry for more. I mean, you guys showed that you deserve those shows. I think the West Coast is going to just be lit this year with wrestling. Like, you guys get WrestleMania in LA. Like, it's going to be, you guys get Revolution. This is a time for West Coast pro wrestling. And for them too. But it's going to be a good time. Raj says, hey, in July, I was getting evicted. Now I'm in a new place with a roommate who loves wrestling as much as I do. Thanks, Grapsody, for being the best. Thank you for thinking we're the best, Raj, because I appreciate that always. Joseph Snurk says, if AEW is going to be turning Shida heel, and they clearly are, Psycho heel Yuka would be perfect for a potential team or stable. That kind of goes with what the guy was saying earlier, though. Anyone who's seen Yuka in Tokyo Joshi Pro knows how much of a lunatic she can be. Tyrone says, Grapsody, in my opinion, I like Moné's finisher. It's something new to bring to the table, and with a decent amount of New Japan AEW people, she can hit it successfully. Plus, she can still use the bank statement in case of emergency. Also, for the guys, especially Reg, I want to shout out Keita Murray as someone you guys should look into. He's an excellent talent that's based out of Cali. He's done a couple of New Japan Strong matches and has a ton of potential. I wish him the best as I used to train with him.
Keita's dope.
Yeah, Kita's super dope. He used to have this all that gimmick, and then he changed it, and he's really leveled up. And since he's been doing work in New Japan Strong, he's been.
What does all that gimmick mean?
Like he had all that. Like he would have the, Nickelodeon. The little
Okay,
logo.
yeah, I was hoping that's what you meant
Like
was.
Yeah. It's an all that gimmick. He came out with orange soda. Will, come on.
That's Keenan and Kel. No, it's Good Burger
Yeah,
that you would. All right. So Ricardo says, any idea why AEW isn't actively promoting the Phoenix show on 222? I've seen them promote the show before and after. It worries me that I'm going to a show that won't matter. Oh, no, you're going to a show that matters. I know here's the rule of thumb when it comes to AEW shows that matter. When AEW is going to a major venue, they usually give it 3 months lead time. When they're going to a smaller venue, it's 2 months lead time. Phoenix got 3 months. They're playing at the Suns Arena. This is not a small show for them at all. And it's the first time in Phoenix. It's the first time deal for them. They put this one up well in advance. And you're still a month and a half off. That's the reason you're not seeing a whole lot of huge promotion for it. But they started selling those tickets way early. And no, I think they're fairly... That's going to be a bigger one. And attendance on it. I think the sales are pretty high for an AEW show. They're in like the 6,000. So speaking of shows that had high attendance, by the way, Black Phoenix Brand says, I was at SmackDown last night. Memphis is another starved wrestling city because we only get one show per year from WWE. Tony Khan, Memphis misses AEW. Yeah, they haven't been back to Memphis since, what was that, 2020, I want to say it was? It says it'll be 3 years tomorrow. I guess I'm right. Since Dynamite was last year. In the words of Pastor Troy, we ready.
Yeah, shout out to Memphis for getting that whoop that trick chant going during Sonya versus Charlotte. Did not expect that, and I laughed legitimately hard at that.
I mean, it surprised me every time WWE fans haul out whoop that trick because, like, obviously it's something that, Grizzlies fans have attached to. But the fact that, because the first time I posted the history of whoop that trick in WWE on my Twitter yesterday, and it's just because I remembered it. But it was March of 2006, nearly 8 months after Hustle and Flow came out, that the first Memphis crowd in WWE chanted whoop that trick. Entirely organic. Nobody was egging them on to do it. It was just literally whoop that trick just sparks up. And I was floored because as somebody who was a big fan of Hustle and Flow when that came out, and again, this was... So I didn't see Hustle and Flow in theaters. I ended up Netflixing it. And when I say Netflix in 2006, I'm referring to receiving a DVD in the mail and watching it and sending it back. But so that was how I watched Hustle and Flow at the time. But I watched it like multiple times after it was over. And so when the WWE fans started chanting "whoop that trick," I was like, oh shit, this like really caught on. Damn, this is great. And then they went back to Memphis 5 months later. And this time WWE got kind of corny with it where they were trying to encourage it. Where, I don't know if you remember what Trish Stratus had that backstage segment. She's like, you know what I'm going to do tonight? I'm going to whoop that trick. What are you going to do? I'm going to whoop that trick. And
I do remember that.
yeah. And I was like, it was cool when like it happened organically with the Memphis crowd. Not as cool when you have, and look, I love Trish Stratus, one of my faves. Also, an extremely white lady who sounds corny as hell, saying, trying to tell people, whoop that trick, stop it. And like it's happened in WWE crowds since, but it's always, it always happens in Memphis, but it is just a straight up Memphis thing. And I love that. That's not even like the primary song from the movie, but it's the chant that lasted, right? Hard Out Here for a Pimp is the song of the movie, but
yeah, I mean, come on, man. Light skinned legend, Terrence Howard, made that a thing.
made
Dick,
that
come on,
up,
man.
beat that trick. Whoop that
Come
trick.
on,
Got
man.
me acting buck and shit.
If you're watching this and you've never seen Jamie Foxx roast Terrence Howard,
Oh
by the
my God, Jamie Foxx.
way, one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life, man. Is this the same guy that played the same guy in every movie? Hustle and Flow. What's going on with all this hustle and flow, man? I'm just saying.
What's going on with all this Iron Man, man?
Yes.
Ray, what's going on with Ray, man? I'm just playing. One of the funniest things ever.
I love it. Yeah, no, Jamie Foxx. I mean, his Donald Trump is really good too, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as Memphis is concerned, yeah, because AEW never hit Memphis proper. They hit, what was it? Correct me, I don't remember the name of it, but it's a city right outside of Memphis. It was technically in Mississippi, if I remember correctly. And I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the city, but the chat's going to remember. I can just Google it really quick. But, God, what was it? Damn it. It's going to drive me nuts.
Mississippi is
South Haven. Thank you. South Haven, Mississippi was it. Wasn't quite Memphis, but I guess it's like 30 minutes outside Memphis. And so they were calling it Memphis. Like they brought in the legends of Memphis and all of that, but it wasn't Memphis at all. And it also, the tickets didn't sell very well for that event at all. Like, that's the thing is, if AEW comes to your city for the first time and you burn them on not showing up, they are not coming back. That much I have noticed. Like, they have not been back to Salt Lake City. And I don't think they're even, like, considering Salt Lake City. Corpus Christi, Texas, they have not been back there. And they have not been back to South Haven, Mississippi. And I think a big piece of it is, you know, if they get like a second bad turnout, that could just be, you know, maybe we came back too soon. But when we go the first time and it's nobody showed up, I don't think that city's getting them again. Like, I worry about Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio tickets are in the dumpster right now. That's like one of their worst ones right now. Dayton, Ohio is looking really bad. And what is the other one? Laredo, Texas looks really bad as well. So they still have a couple of shows that aren't hitting, but the rest are doing pretty good. So let's talk. Vinnie Mac, baby. No chance in hell. We talked 5 weeks ago on this show.
Do you got your apology ready?
I ain't got to apologize for nothing. I said.
What is that about? I missed that whole thing.
Doesn't matter. Was deleted. But I said on this show, I laid out the scenario. I said that if Vince wants to come back, the only thing that could be done to stop it is convincing him not to. And if you saw the letter that was sent to Vince, they tried. They absolutely tried. And he responded, LOL, no. And that was that was his entire response to that request to not return. Vince McMahon, it was they put out a press statement. Vince McMahon is returning to the board. He assured stockholders, he assured everybody, and there was a meeting this week that said that they basically told the roster, look, nothing's changing in day to day, but Vince is coming back, and Vince basically ultimatum the company. He said that they've got TV rights deals coming up. They're going, and that's the biggest stream of revenue WWE has. They're going to be renegotiating Raw's TV deal, SmackDown's TV deal, all of that. And he said, you cannot negotiate a new TV rights deal without me. And also, if the company wants to sell, can't be done without me. So there he is.
With his percentages as a shareholder, he has the rights to do that. That was always the thing.
That's what I said.
That was always why it was going to be hard to just completely shut him out of everything, because it's his company, literally.
And he changed the bylaws, by the way, because that wasn't. He changed the bylaws to basically state that these deals can't be done without me.
Yeah, it's literally his company. He has the largest percentage as a shareholder. This is where we're at. We're always going to have this fight. And the reason why I said when we talked about it earlier in the show that I have had the feeling that he's been a part of creative in some way. I'm not insinuating that he has been completely running creative.
Are you saying he's got his headset on from home like we do, just sitting there with the mic at his desk?
I just wouldn't be surprised if he's had notes and stuff and he's had input. I wouldn't be surprised at all by that. Because what are you going to do? You're going to tell him no? And so, yeah, it's just a tough spot. And how did I cringe at that press release and how he was, everything about it was just like, with everything that's going on, the reasons he's had to step down, and the controversy around it, for him to just be like, nope, I think I'm just going to come back to work. And it's like, but, yeah, I don't know, man. It's bad because I'm sure, because stock went up yesterday, correct?
Huge, like 28%.
That's great for now in the short term, but who's to say there won't be more controversy around this guy to come back out? And we've got him linked to the sale of the company or linked to anything else. It's gonna look bad. It's not good. Everything about this is very cringe-inducing.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to unpack out of this. So he's back, right? Like the fact is, he is back in play, and he's not acting CEO. That's important. He is not Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon, still co-CEOs of the company. What's his official title? I think executive chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But and he says he believes in the management team that's in place right now, and he will not interfere with the goings on as far as WWE is concerned. He's here to basically facilitate the money. And they have big TV deals coming up, right? Like there's word that there's rumors going around that the Fox deal that Fox may not renew, that Fox wants to, but that WWE may seek elsewhere, that they may want all of their shows under one umbrella, that if NBC were to pick up SmackDown instead, then that puts all the shows under Comcast, and that puts them in a better position to buy it, because now Comcast has Raw, they have SmackDown, literally no WWE programming would exist outside of Comcast. They also have all the pay-per-views on Peacock. Then they can just turn around and go, now we're buying the company, and they have no outside money to deal with in that regard. There's that aspect of it. There's also a lot of worry amongst talent. I know that talent was assured that nothing would change in the day-to-day. But WWE did just hire JP Morgan, announced this morning, to help facilitate the sale. When you're looking to sell anything, folks, what is one of the things you typically want to do to make it more attractive?
That rhetorical
Anybody?
question?
No, I'm asking. What is the thing? Because it's a thing that's got a lot of talent worried. I've spoken to 2 wrestlers in particular who are worried about it.
You cut the
layoffs,
fat.
baby.
You got to cut the fat. You got to make it look attractive financially.
And
And
it
so-
sure seemed like they were doing that last year before Triple H took over.
Right. You've got to, and everybody in the chat, you got to cut costs. And so I know that that's a thing talent's worried about, that they're saying nothing's going to change in the day-to-day. But what that's supposed to mean is that nothing's going to change as far as the creative process is concerned, as far as the way the show is run. But that doesn't necessarily mean that nothing's going to change in terms of, well, we're preparing to sell this company, so we may have to let some people go to make this a more attractive buy. And I know there's talent worried about that. I know there's talent kind of on edge about the fact that they're going to want to cut some costs. They're going to want to trim some fat. And what does that mean? A lot of those guys that Hunter hired back, if they're not working out, what's going to stop them from suddenly going, okay, get out, because we gotta this has got to be a lean roster right now to make this attractive to a company. to make this attractive to anybody. Because that was essentially, and you know, the hard part to me is, I don't know why you would want WWE owned by a big media company. I don't know why you would want professional wrestling owned by a big media company. Because we've only seen that one time. And that was WCW. Like, for any comparisons people want to make to WCW for anybody, that's the comparison. Is that WCW was owned by Warner, Time Warner at the time, specifically. So Time Warner was no longer just a media rights company. They weren't just paying for the rights to air it the way Comcast is right now, the way Fox is right now. Time Warner wholly owned the company. And in doing so, Time Warner was on the hook for all of those contracts. Time Warner was on the hook for production. Time Warner was on the hook for a lot of stuff. So at that point, in company restructuring, like I saw a list of companies that were potentially going to buy. And when I saw Warner Brothers Discovery as a potential buyer, I thought, what are they, just listing companies that exist? Because like Warner Brothers Discovery, take AEW out of the equation, not even talking about them in that sense. I'm talking about it in the sense of Warner Brothers Discovery, literally, their CEO just said their bottom line right now is cutting costs. Buying a multi-billion-dollar company and incurring all of their costs, it sounds like a colossal mistake. Because at that point, if Warner Brothers Discovery buys them, because the response to that would be, well, WWE makes a lot of money. Where does WWE make their money from? Their TV rights deals. If Warner Brothers Discovery owns WWE and can no longer have the kind of TV rights deals, like if they're, so it depends. If Warner Brothers Discovery were to buy WWE and put it on their own networks, massive mistake, right? Because now you no longer have TV rights money. Now you're talking about
like Impact,
essentially airing it yourself, which was what killed WCW, because WCW never had a TV rights deal. WCW was simply aired on Time Warner networks. Like if they still owned it and then licensed it out to, say, NBC Universal, then that is a good revenue stream that you could look at, and that could make money. But is that going to make back the cost of the company? I don't think so. I don't think Warner Brothers Discovery is actually in play there. I think the main suitors that people have been talking about, Comcast is obviously the leading one. I think Comcast has the structure in place for pro wrestling. I know people have talked about Amazon buying it. Amazon doesn't really have that structure in place. That'd be kind of a new venture for them. But they've shown a desire to want to build those new ventures. They bought MGM. They have those NFL rights. They want to start they've already been producing movies, but now like they own the rights to James fucking Bond now. Amazon does. So that is a possibility. I think it's Comcast personally. There is one other option that has a lot of people worried because of an article that came out, and I want to pull this article up just to make sure I'm quoting everything properly. But most specifically, it was from Front Office Sports. Now, Front Office Sports is a site that is known for having WWE stuff, WWE leaking things to them directly. Front Office Sports, you may recall, summer of 2021 ran the Nick Gage Domino story that was fed to them by WWE, and all of those details. But again, so big rumor that Saudi Arabia's public investment fund might be interested in buying WWE, which would make WWE as a whole owned by Saudi Arabia. And and at that point, they would have a huge revenue stream out of Comcast, NBC, and a huge revenue stream out of Fox.
That would be god awful. I think that when people talk about the thing that will get people to possibly stop watching, I think that's it. I think that would be me pulling up and saying, nope, I don't think I can watch this anymore. If it's owned by the Saudi government, nope. No thanks. And I mean, is it the Saudi government, or is it the same that started the partnership with them for the Vision 2020 thing? Is it the same organization?
So we're going to pull up the article, Front Office Sports. And so it talks about how Live Golf might be only the beginning. Saudi Arabia's public investment fund is emerging as a possible bidder for WWE. Yeah, if the promotion puts itself up for sale, sources told Front Office Sports. PIF controls about $620 billion in assets. Vince's sports entertainment company could be the next possible step in its global sports expansion. So I saw somebody in the chat say, well, the article only says they have the money, but they were also told by sources that it's a possible. Like, that's the piece that I think is missing there. That again, it's entirely possible. Obviously, WWE has been willing to do business with Saudi Arabia, and it's been a very lucrative relationship for both sides for the last 5 years. Like, Greatest Royal Rumble was 2018. Like, we're going on 5 years of this relationship. And so this isn't I guess, shocker to me. It's more so just kind of unfortunate. But, yeah. The fact is... somebody else is going to own WWE, my thinking, so my thought was it was going to take years for this to go through, but I'm thinking it may go sooner. Obviously, I think, not to go through, I think to begin the initial transaction. Obviously, the closing of the transaction is going to take a much longer time. But I think the suitor will be found by the end of this year. That's my thought.
Yeah, there's so much to take in about this, because I know he's specifically saying, "Oh, I won't have anything to do with creative," but bro, back in July, you were completely out, and that was the thing. So we were taking you at your word that you were out, and now you're back. What's to say a year from now you're just like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna step back in creative as well, or a few months from now. And so I think that's what people has people worried, is that, you know, if you say one thing and then you're back in this capacity, what's to stop you from being back in other capacities?
Yeah, I don't fucking buy it. I think that I think Vince books WrestleMania. That's my you want my bold 23 prediction? I think Vince books WrestleMania.
I think so too. I don't think he's coming. I can't get behind him just coming back and not being behind creative. That doesn't make sense to me. This is the wild. It was the wildest story of 2022, and it's immediately the wildest story of 2023. I mean, Vince retiring was crazy, but WWE being sold to somebody else I know it's been talked about for so many years, but I never thought it would get to this point. And the most interesting thing to me is, like, does Vince think all the people that he's going to be having these meetings with don't have the internet? Like, they haven't seen that he's a
these damn billionaires
business with this disgusting person.
They don't give a shit about any of that, Reg. They don't care.
They care about money.
Yeah,
they care about the money. Like, all of that is.
I mean, if you meet, if you meet with Elon Musk, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Like, I know they worry about the public's perception, but as far as sitting in a room with this man, these motherfuckers all do this shit too. Like, that's the thing is, the most they're worried about is the public backlash. But as far as any actual aversion to Vince, no. That said, this sucks. This sucks in the sense that having Vince back in play, I think, sends a really bad message to
everybody.
To me, it sends a bad message to a lot of the women in the locker room, who I think, obviously we've had women speak out against Vince, both in a public and private manner. I think that Vince being shown the door initially sent a message of that will not be tolerated in this company.
Yeah.
And I think to basically now be like, well, actually, there's nothing we could do about this. Kind of backpedals on that message. And I think it does. And like we talked 5 weeks ago about how these stories leaking weren't a coincidence, or leaking when they did, because if you look at the letters that were sent back and forth, when you look at the dates on them, I think it was December 10th, where it was stated that this letter to Vince from the board that said, we have concerns about you returning, particularly around matters that haven't been made public yet. And we don't believe this is in the interest of the company. I was sent around December 10th. And then Vince basically followed up, I think it was December 29th, with tough shit, I'm coming back. And thinking about when that Wall Street Journal article came out last month about Vince wanting to return, that goes hand in hand with the time of their response. So that means that Vince had already made, it wasn't just talking about returning. Vince had told the board he was returning at that point. It just hadn't been public yet. The Wall Street Journal article wasn't just referring to hearsay. They were referring to, no, Vince is coming back. And then in that same article drop, the Wall Street Journal article also detailed new allegations, which goes hand in hand with what they were saying about information that hasn't been made public yet. That was that information that hadn't been made public yet. As in, we're aware of other allegations, we, the board, are. And we are now giving this to, like, they gave that to the Wall Street Journal. They did what they could to try to prevent Vince's comeback. And what they did was gave them more information. It didn't stop anything. But at the same time, there's still more out there. And I'm sure there's even more. Like, think about the fact that Vince was doing this long tells me that this was serial activity, right? And that, you know, they finally caught up to him. But he didn't do anything about it. He didn't stop.
But that's why when he retired the way he did, I felt like that was a telltale sign that there was more stuff that could come out, and they were like, look, we're giving you the opportunity to step down with grace and, you know, have your retirement, and, you know, we can move on from this. And now it feels like he's very clearly not going to do that, which tells me that more and more stuff will be made public.
Now it's not in the interest to do so. Like, already there's 3 board members out, and of course George Barrios and Michelle What's-Her-Butt are now both in there. And so that is it's not in the company's interest any longer now that he's there. It was in the company's interest to leak that stuff to keep him from coming back. But now the board, like, well, shit, now this, again, that was something to prevent him from coming in. Now he's here. Now it's no longer in our interest to have that stuff out there. So now it's just shit that's out there, making our executive chairman look like shit and makes our company look bad. But they're going to do business.
So, but I mean, when I say that, you know, more stuff will come out, I feel like the stuff that is out there, I don't think that stuff will go away, and I don't think that there will stop being stories to corroborate it. That's what I mean. Not saying that stuff will come directly from the company, but I do think that, you know, there will be more, you know, people willing to come forward with stuff to corroborate those stories.
Yes. By the way, Tim Gordon says, Big Brain Barrios is the real Triple B. Man, look, that man, forehead. I mean, that is like a 7 head for one. But like, I every time I see a picture of him, I think it's photoshopped, and I'm like, man, why are y'all doing that to that man's forehead? And I'm like, nope, that's real. That's just. I mean, look, it's big brain. There is clearly a lot going on up there, and good for him. Let's see. Hala says, the lack of repercussions for Dana White played into Vince's decision to go for it. I don't think it played into his decision. I think just in general, I think it's more lack of repercussions for billionaires at that level in general. And that,
bro, this picture is photoshopped.
No, it's not.
Look at this guy's head, man.
That's what I told you. Every time I see it, I'm like, nah, stop doing that to that man. That man, he don't deserve that. And then,
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
Oh,
no, this is the one. This is the one I see every time that I'm like, nah, that's Photoshop. Like, that's not real.
That's a lot of forehead, man. That is a lot of forehead. My guy. Big brain.
Big brain. Hey, that's Big Brain Barrios, man. That's it.
Hilarious.
So but he's back. He's back in the company.
I can't believe they're still going forward with Power Slap. By the way, that sounds crazy.
That's crazy as
That
hell.
is wild. I thought that for sure we just weren't going to see it. I mean, like, it'd be one thing if, Dana White was seen on camera slapping his wife and he was debuting a TV show called, like, Frolic in the Woods, right? Like,
Frolic in the Woods.
like, maybe you could let it happen. But the fact that the show is Power Slap, it's literally about slapping people. And the thing that Dana White was seen doing was slapping his spouse.
Unreal.
I thought for certain that was like the end of it. And because, like, yeah, you're sending a massively bad message. But
Well,
nope. It's delayed a week, but otherwise it's happening.
Rich white man, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. We got some other super chats on this matter. But look, as far as the environment WWE is concerned, again, I know the roster has been told, don't worry. But they have every reason to, especially with the sale. I think if you think that creative is the only thing people are concerned about, like, you're way off base. That's not the concern. It's job security at this stage. Like, obviously, Roman Reigns ain't got nothing to worry about, right? But I think we could probably reach a point of seeing those release lists again.
Well, I mean, I didn't think they were going to stop releasing people anyway. I figured they were going to release people eventually again anyway. But this feels like we're going to head back to the state of things from 2020 and on, where we were getting like these big.
So that was a big piece of it, right? Like in 2020, when we were getting these massive releases. What was the speculation around that? It was, if I didn't know any better, I think they're cutting people to gear up to sell the company. Because why would you be trimming this much unless you were trying to lean out the roster and make it more attractive to a buyer?
Right.
Because the buyer is going to have to incur all them contracts. And so therefore, you don't necessarily want to, the less of them that they have to deal with, the better.
Yeah.
And then it could be when they do make the sale that the new owners also want to trim the fat, and they also want it because they come in and like, damn, I didn't know there was 80 contracts or however many fucking wrestlers they want. We want to cut this shit in half. Like, you don't know what they're gonna do on the other side of this. It's scary.
Yeah, that's 80 contracts on SmackDown. That's
right.
So it's going to be an interesting time. On the creative side of things, like, am I worried? I mean, sure, but more than that, I think I'm more concerned for the people on the roster. That's really it for me, is that I have friends in that company. Like, I know I talk a lot about friends in AEW, but I have friends in WWE as well. And I have, again, of course, I just mentioned a thing about narrowing down your field. But I have friends who were just recently rehired. Like, that's, that, I don't know. I have just concerns is all. But the thing I want to talk about more than anything else, guys. Kenny Omega and Will fucking Osprey.
6 stars 6.25 stars, baby.
I don't even have to, like, I knew Meltzer was going to go nuts on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I've watched it now 3 times because first time I was just like, whew, off the charts, this is good. And then Billy got up the next morning and Billy went, how was it? And I was like, you know what, Billy, I can't even give you words. Let's just throw it on. And we sat and we watched it again. I actually watched it at the same time as Denise because Denise didn't watch it live, so she was watching it and like texting me about it. And I just happened to have it on, and I'm like, hey, what a coincidence! I'm watching it too, so I'm literally any notes that she has to say about it, I'm like seeing right in front of me as it's happening. And so I rewatched it again, and then I'm like, one more time. I was bored yesterday, and I just wanted to watch it again. 3 times I've watched it, and with all of that said, this is the best match of the decade.
That's a high mark. I don't know if I would jump that far with it. That's a high mark.
I mean, granted, it's only
10
been
years of wrestling. And
not the last 10 years. I mean,
decade.
I'm talking about 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. There's not a better match from any of those years than this. And and look, my favorite match ever is Kenny Omega and Kenny. Go figure. It's Kenny Omega and Hangman versus the Young Bucks Revolution, which was 2020, and I think this was better.
Yeah, I don't know if I would jump into that, but I thought this was extremely good. I thought Wrestle Kingdom on a whole. I think you could get into like the lull period in the middle of the show, but I feel like the last 3 matches of the show were very good. I mean, like I just talked about how great that junior heavyweight match was, and just how great some of the building to that match was, but. Kenny in Japan is just different. Just like the theatrics of Kenny in Japan, just how great his entrance was with the Sephiroth cosplay, and just I love wrestle. Every time New Japan does this, and it pans around to behind a wrestler while they're walking down that long ramp, and Kenny walking down that long ramp again. It's just so much nostalgia for it, and just like the fire coming up around him. It was just so awesome. And then we got Osprey, not to be downplayed. Coming out and doing like the whole theatrics, and when it scrolled across the screen, Return of the Assassin, I was like, is he gonna dust off Elevated? And Elevated came on, I was like, no fucking way, come on, man. Like so many memories of Elevated and the things that he did as a junior heavyweight and the stuff that made Osprey. This was great, and the match itself was just amazing. Just
hey, really quick, by the way, I will say. It's because I know that probably sounded like an outlandish statement, but I decided to pull up Cage Matches rankings and average. I pulled up the all-time highest rated cage matches ever. What do you think the top 5 are? You could probably name them. But number 5, Kenny is in 3 of the top 5, by the way. Yeah. But the top 5 matches ever on Cage Match are number 5. 2 out of 3 falls. Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega. The 7-star match is at number 5. At number 4, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. At number 3, it's Kenta Kobashi versus Mitsuharu Misawa from 2003. And number 2, it is Shibata versus Okada from what show was that at? That was at Sakura Genesis in 2017. And then at number 1, it is Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 11. That is the highest rated match on Cage Match. So the fact is, and that's with about the same amount of reviews. But Kenny Omega
Okada's in 4 out of the 5 matches.
Yes, and Kenny is in 3 out of the 5 all-time highest rated matches on Cage Match. But Omega Osprey is already at number 4 with 715 reviews. So it's going to be really hard to knock it down. Because it's already got so many, but it's up there. Like, I'm not crazy. That was like, I walked away from that feeling like, what I loved about it. So something Reg had said, about the match. Reg mentioned how it was a fucking fight, right? Like, if you put Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay on paper, you probably still would have said it's going to be a great match. But they'll probably do the Will Ospreay thing. They'll probably do the Kenny Omega thing. We're going to see lots of flips. We're going to see lots of spots. And I think I counted like 2, maybe 3 flips in this match. But for the most part, no, that was not this match. These two went out there and fucking fought, and it was great. And I think that was the thing I really took away from this. Like, it's going to be really hard. Next week, I have to do the Fightful Awards and talk about all the best stuff of 2022. Nothing I'll be talking about was as good as this, and that is that's not a knock against some of the great stuff, because man, we're going to be celebrating some great matches, the Briscoes, FTR, all that stuff. But man, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay in a single situation, and the story they were telling in the match. When people talk about storytelling, what I get when I talk about storytelling, what I mean by that is I'm referring to getting a narrative out of in-ring action without a word needing to be said, where I can understand the narrative. That to me is storytelling. And these two, I got the story of everything. Now, granted, I've been following all of it, of course, but even just watching this, didn't need a video package, didn't need nothing. Knowing what was at stake, knowing that we've got a title on the line, Kenny's return, Will Ospreay feeling like he's got something to prove here and holding back Kenny feeling like he's got something to prove here and reminding everyone just who he is. The DDT on the top rope to the exposed turnbuckle was the nastiest looking shit. Kenny's eye, the table spots. Kenny just ramming Will's head through the table.
The V triggers were on point. The one that he hit on the back of Will Ospreay's head was fucking crazy as hell. The Kreutz Wrath from the fucking top out. Like, Ospreay is that fucking guy, man. He can work like no one can work. He bumps like no one can fucking bump. He throws strikes like this shit was fucking top of the tops. This is how you fucking do some professional wrestling.
You guys know I'm a Rollins guy, and I think one of the reasons some WWE fans are still mad at Rollins to this day is when he was going back and forth with Osprey on Twitter. And a large part of that stuff I was fine with, because it's just him, waving the company flag and, knowing that our company is better, I make more money than you. The one thing that he said in there that I thought was incredibly egregious, and I was just like, no, you're just wrong on that. When he was like, we got one of you here, and it's Ricochet, and I was like, listen, I like Ricochet. He's one of the best high flyers ever. He ain't Osprey. Just period. Sorry, he's not Osprey. And I'm just like, because I feel like there are two phases of Osprey. There's the junior heavyweight stuff that we saw, and there was the era where him and Ricochet were neck and neck, and there is heavyweight Osprey. Heavyweight Osprey is a different beast. And the stuff that I watched him do in that match at Wrestle Kingdom, the stuff that I watched him do all of 2022, no, he's in a different lane. And so, nah, man, I think the reason why I didn't want to get into is this the best of the decade, because I am a big believer that you let time tell you what is the best match of the decade. Let's get to the end of the decade and see what other matches were there. I don't want to go 4 days or whatever after the match to go, this is already the best match of the decade. But to me, I just feel like even beyond all of that, just for him to come back to the Dome on his first appearance in the Dome in 4 years almost, and put on an instant classic like this was amazing. Like I said, Omega in Japan is just different. Just the theatrics are different. The way he wrestles is kind of different. Don't get me wrong, he does wrestle and he does all the same spots, but just like him doing the wide-eyed stares into the camera, just like old Kenny. And I mean, we've seen him do that in AEW, but it's just different, man. It just is. It's just several things he did in this match story-wise, like building up to the Kamigoye, because, of course, that is the brutal way that Osprey beat Coda. the last time Omega was in Japan, and he never got his revenge for that. I feel like this is the signal of Kenny coming back for everything in Japan. Not just not just the Osprey match, just everything about it. I said on Twitter afterwards, just the timing of Jay White losing everything when Kenny is on his way back to Japan. It's very great storytelling as well. An idea of him being in this loser leaves Japan match while Kenny is holding the IWGP US title, which he's the first champion, and that's the first singles title that Jay White won. He beat Kenny Omega for that belt. All of that stuff coming around full circle when Kenny is back in Japan is just great. I mean, the world looks very different if Kenny Omega does not sign with AEW in 2019 and he stays in Japan. Jay White's entire career for those 3 years looks totally different if Kenny Omega is still in Japan, because that match in Madison Square Garden against Okada is probably his match. Everything else that his claim of fame of being the catalyst is possibly Kenny Omega's. And so when you look at everything about this, not just him coming on and upstaging his match, by the way, in the main event.
It was weird to even say the words out loud as I sat there, but to even utter the words, how do Jay White and Kazuchika Okada follow that? In any other universe, that would sound insane. But the fact is, like, Kenny and Osprey did it. They killed it.
I think it was intentional, and that's why I'm like, yo, there's just too much storytelling stuff to tell me that we're not getting to the Okada match. There's just too many lines that they drew here. I think he's going to eventually have this showdown with Jay White that's been building for years as well. But just everything about this match, the way he beat Osprey, the story of Osprey, the last thing that he hasn't done. Yes, he beat Okada in that one-off match, but he hasn't beat him in the Dome. He hasn't had that big win on him yet. It's the last thing he's done. And just the story of Osprey doing all these things as well while Kenny was away, and Kenny going away, but you never beat me, you never topped me, and him coming back right away and beating him instantly.
I know. So there was a piece of me that thought, you know what? So like as you're watching the show, you could see, FTR had on their Chiron says AEW. They're there representing AEW. Kenny Omega's Chiron says AEW. And so my thought with Kenny was he is there representing AEW. He is not here as a piece of New Japan. So like he's probably just here to, pass the torch that, give. So that's my thought. Almost the entire match is like here to give Osprey his moment. Mm-hmm. Didn't even consider until that 1, 2, 3. No, it wasn't the 1, 2, 3. It was the moment he hit the one-winged angel. And I knew he wasn't kicking out because I'm like, okay.
Anything else I saw? Kamigoye, that it was over.
When he hit the one-winged angel, and I'm like, okay, so this isn't just a story of coming back to put over the new generation.
Will, I said on this podcast the week before, and I told you that it made perfect sense for him to go there and beat him. Everything I know, about it.
But again, this was me thinking that Kenny, like ultimately, Kenny's story is still in AEW. That his story is still like that's where his home base is. So therefore, like this is more so a passing of the torch moment. And no, this wasn't that at fucking all. No, this was Kenny coming back for everything that he left behind.
I didn't believe that from the second he cut that promo at the crossover show, and he was sitting there popping shit in Japanese. I was like, nah, he's coming to beat Osprey. He's coming for everything. I knew it. And so when it was happening, and again, when he hit the Kamigoye, I knew the match was over. Right. But even afterwards, and just Osprey at the edge of the ring, and Kenny and Don are walking off with the belt, and you could just see the story of Osprey. Like, I've done everything. You were gone for years. This is my house now. And Kenny's just looking as he's walking away with that belt, like, no, this is me. I'm that guy. You are not me. And I think the story is leading to him going to Jay White and going, You ain't me either, bro. Sorry. And I mean, he really proven that night because he upstaged them. And I'm not one of those guys that feels like that this should have been the main event because I feel like the right match main evented the show. It needed to be Okada winning the title and ending the show by giving tribute to Inoki. I feel like that was the right call. But I feel like the story of all of this is there to build for the rest of the year because if we're not getting Okada versus Omega at Forbidden Door, or at some point in the U.S. this year, we're getting a big match with Omega by Wrestle Kingdom next year. There's going to be a story of him getting back to Japan next year and doing something big. And I don't even think it's that far away. I mean, he already said that he wants to defend that title in the U.S. and Japan. Of course, Cobb challenged him on New Year Dash. That's probably going to happen soon. But he also said he wants to wrestle Desperado and Hiromu and Shingo because he hasn't wrestled Shingo in New Japan yet. Come on, man. Give me all those matches. Give me Omega doing what he was doing as belt collector and traveling the world and showing people he is the best fucking wrestler in the world. And if you think that he's not and you didn't see the Okada matches before, he's going to show you in 2023. Get ready.
So for those people who have been following me longer than Grapsody, no, I used to host another show. And if you still follow that other show, there's a couple of hosts on that show that are very anti-Kenny and anti, Young Buck style wrestling, whatever. So funny thing is, I actually reached out to Cody, who hosts that show. And what I said to him was, I want you to watch Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay, but I want you to keep all of your preconceived notions about what you think it's going to be. He hates, flip style matches, all of that. And I said, keep your preconceived notions. I want you to go in thinking it's what you think it's going to be, and then tell me what you think when it's over. And I said all that because, again, whatever type of match you thought this was going to be, no. And it is, I don't know. I couldn't have been happier with professional wrestling that night. I just walked away like, you know what? I'm tired of shit. My whole sleep, everything is thrown off. It's going to be thrown off for a week, but I saw a match I'm going to be thinking about for a really long time. What's funny is I know that Phil, you were kind of implying the prisoner of the moment thing with me saying best of the decade. But I'll say this. I said after I watched the Revolution tag match, the Bucks versus Kenny and Hangman, and that's still my favorite match in the sense that I still feel like, I like the New Japan atmosphere, of course. I like Wrestle Kingdom, and I like the Dome as an atmosphere. But at the same time, there's nothing like a rowdy Chicago crowd, and I still think that to me adds to the experience. So that's why that's still my favorite, even if I think the best match was Kenny and Osprey. But the thing is, it's been 3 years now, and after I walked away from that Revolution tag match, I said that's my favorite match, like, ever. And it's been 3 years, and in those 3 years, none of that changed. Like, in the moment, I was like, yes, it's very good. Maybe I'm being a prisoner of the moment. But with each passing match I saw, I could say, man, I really enjoyed that. But my favorite is still this one. And I think right now, I haven't walked away from a match feeling as good about it in the last 3-4 years as I did Kenny and Osprey. And I still feel like it's going to be, unless something crazy tops it, it would be a long time before I do. But right now, like, that is my, it's easy. It's easy to say match of the year, right? Because the year just started. But what I mean, though, is that, like, that is definitively above everything I saw last year.
It's going to be tough for anything else this year to top that. Everything about it, just the presentation going into the match. Osprey's fucking promo the night before in that press conference where he's just like, you don't get to belittle what I did because you weren't here. And I feel like that goes into the story they were telling for the match so well. This was top tier wrestling. And again, him doing all that, then coming back the next night at New Year Dash and standing next to Okada. New Japan is back, man. I'm just ready to say it.
Yeah.
New Japan is back. I mean, not just with everything. Mercedes out there as well. New Japan is back, buddy.
All right, we got to wrap and let's get through the rest of the super chats. DNC says, the internet lied to me about OGK. I'm not sure if you mean positively or negatively. Also, what about the possibility that AEW house shows are co-sponsored cards with larger indies? That would be a good way to do it. I don't know if that's
Good
what Jeff's
idea.
thinking, but that's a really great idea. I had that same thought of, AEW already works with a lot of indies. What if they do just do co-promoted cards and kind of work those as house shows? But at the same time, I know that they want to sell the idea is to sell the AEW brand to markets that don't necessarily know the AEW brand, or that aren't to expose it to more. And I think that's ultimately the idea. So I don't know that that's going to work. Brent says, hearing way too much. Don't worry, he's not going to be involved in creative, and not enough. But he's a sex pest. I guess that's how it goes, huh?
That's very true.
And that was the piece that, and I hope I did get enough of that out, talking about my worry for a lot of the women on the roster in particular.
Right.
But because that is really the concern. Drew says he's going to hire Johnny L back to fire everyone due to budget cuts.
Yikes.
It's not personal. It's budget.
I also am thinking though on the New Japan stuff, we need an update on Cora soon because, come on, man, Kenny versus Cora has to happen soon. I feel like we need that match very soon.
Derek Gordon says Vince just playing coy right now until he figured out who Triple H been leaking all this dirt on him.
Maybe. Yeah. It's just very uncomfortable, man. All the Vince stuff is super uncomfortable.
It is.
Jared says Ezra Miller and Vince can't be canceled. Insane. I mean, I think Ezra Miller would have been canceled if they hadn't filmed this multi-million-dollar movie starring him.
But have you seen that report where they're basically out on almost everybody else in the Justice League cast, but it seems like they're still open to working with him, which is insane. Maybe they're just saying that for publicity. Because
I think they're trying to say, yeah. I think that's one of those revisit this conversation after the movie comes out kind of things. But I think they don't want to say we spent these millions and millions of dollars on the movie, and then they're going to tell people don't go see this because it doesn't matter. I think it is one of those things where they're kind of just sitting on. We have to still promote this because we need it to make some money. And then once it flops, then we're willing to go, all right, well, he's out as Flash. But don't say it before.
Yeah. That's another one. Very uncomfortable.
I did finally watch Black Adam. When did I watch that? Tuesday night? I watched it Tuesday night. I liked it. I don't know. I know that people were kind of down on it. I know it has a huge... I'm not sure what there very much was to dislike. Obviously, I'm not going to put it up as a top tier superhero movie, but I know. But I guess by the end of it, I was like, that was fine.
It was a fun movie. What there is to dislike is that kid character was extremely annoying for most of the movie. I couldn't stand it. It was extremely obnoxious. I thought some of the humor in it wasn't good. But I don't think it was a bad movie. I wouldn't say that. But there were definitely things to dislike.
Maybe because I watched it with my son, and he thought the whole catchphrase thing was hilarious, and he was so into that bit. And at the end of it, Billy lost it at the post-credit scene. He's like, "Let's go!" And I'm like, "I don't have the heart to tell him this isn't going anywhere."
Sorry, Billy.
Damn.
It's him. That's definitely him waiting for that handshake for Athena and going, "Oh, no, Henry Cavill."
Oh shit. Okay, so we haven't even talked about that. Yeah. So of course, on AEW Dark Elevation this week, Athena had a match. She reached out to Billy. I talked about this on the show, but now the footage is out there because you can see the angle of it. I guess this is my son. This is his story. This is going to be female wrestlers turn heel and then make him sad. I mean, I like the work Athena's doing, so Shout out Athena.
Yeah, Athena's doing great. Can't wait to see her defend that title.
Aaron said, I know it's doom and gloom when it comes to Vinnie Mac, but I'm a bit optimistic, and I feel the universe will handle this, and things aren't going to work in Vinnie Mac's favor, but that's just me.
Busby, I would love to be as optimistic as you. But from my point of view, a lot of bad people in real life don't get their comeuppance. It just doesn't happen.
They don't.
I mean, we still got a certain guy that ran for president and won, and he's still walking around like nothing happened. People stormed the Capitol building on his behalf, and this guy is just still walking around like nothing happened.
Pretty regular.
Crazy.
King of the North says, Okada and Omega tagging the next night. Wow, man.
What a moment, man. I think one of the best New Year dash in at least 5 years.
Shanika, and this is a take I always appreciate. She says, as a relative newbie who knows Kenny mostly from the AEW era, this match hit real different. In so many ways, my first live Wrestle Kingdom did not disappoint. Again, guys, don't gatekeep on Wrestle Kingdom in the sense that there was a lot of new fans who watched and appreciate that. I've seen a lot of people being like, oh, these aren't real New Japan fans. They're just tuning in for that. Yes, that's what you want. You want people to come away.
Fans.
You want people to come away the way Shanika did. I was coming down on the people who were watching it for the first time and going, well, what is this shit? Why don't they do this or why don't they do that? Or this isn't as good as WWE. The production isn't as good. All of that.
Nah, which I don't even understand people that don't think the production is as good. I think that it's different, but I think the way they film wrestling is incredible in New Japan. Totally. It's unique to their style of wrestling. But no, I definitely think there are a lot of AEW fans that only know Kenny from AEW that missed out on a lot of what made Kenny Kenny. And again, if this is your first taste of it and you're just seeing that Wrestle Kingdom match, I believe there will be more this year because I feel like Kenny has been hungry to come back and show people all that time he's hurt. So,
Albert says the comment with Ricochet would work if he was not jobbing most of his time in WWE. Does talent not sign with WWE now that Vince is back? I mean, I don't think that's necessarily. People were signing with WWE anyway.
I mean, Dragon Lee that was before the Vince thing, but Dragon Lee just came back, and that seemed to tell me at least that edict that we got from whatever a year ago that they were done signing indie wrestlers. That's over. And especially with Regal coming back, Regal's going to start scouting again for him probably. I think people will definitely be still signing.
Yeah.
And I got firsthand word that Gabe Sapolsky is out on the prowl. He was at a West Coast Pro show scouting talent, and he's going to
I thought you had different news. When you said Gabe Sapolsky is
No.
out, I'm like, whoa, are we breaking news here? I didn't.
Whoa.
No. He's out and he's getting talent. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it'll stop people from signing. We just got that report about them being interested in the New Japan guy. So, no, I think they'll be still signing people.
Yep. King of the North says, Phil, we still have Omega versus Vikingo in the future.
We still have a lot of Omega matches. We have Omega matches in New Japan that in AEW that we haven't got yet. And I'm just going to say this. If they do win next week, which I'm pretty sure that the leader are going to win next week, him putting on an instant classic in Japan and then coming back and successfully coming back from a 3-1 deficit is probably one of the greatest things we've ever seen in wrestling.
Honestly.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Well, we got this Humper chat, speaking of which, asking the question along those same lines. Let me see. Let me make sure I actually have it queued up. I don't think I do. This one's from Pavlo, though. And Pavlo asks that very question. It says, for Grapsody, good morning, guys. Will, what's your percentage on the Elite becoming two-time Trios champs next week? Also, can't wait for Danielson versus Takeshita. Next feud for Reg's big homie. I think Reg's big homie is going after Darby.
Yeah.
I think I would bet you that's the Revolution match in his hometown.
I bet that too.
So,
yeah. I think the Elite are going to win next week, just because, like I said, I feel like Belt Collector is back, and he's not going to let this slip between his fingers. Yeah, so I think they will win.
You know, it's interesting. If he held the belt till Revolution, by the way, Darby, that's still a decently long reign. Like if they do what they're doing now with Darby, which is give him a shit ton of title defenses, make him a open challenge defending champion, the way he just defended the belt against Mike Bennett last night. Do that kind of stuff. Just keep giving him title defenses after title defense. I think he'll have what will feel like a substantial reign, and then I think he should hit a roadblock in Powerhouse Hobbs that takes the belt from him. That's what I would do personally. I think that what's weird is I was certain the Elite were winning the belts back until because things didn't really get to work out the way they were supposed to. But House of Black, because it felt like House of Black was headed toward the Elite the way they were targeting Brandon Cutler and saying that they're coming for trios belts. But the way that last week Eddie Kingston and Ortiz didn't get to be there, so that feud is now delayed. I have worry that they're not going with House of Black versus Elite immediately. So who does Elite move on to in terms of other trios? Unless Cole's back on Wednesday.
I don't know. I still think the Elite are winning the belts back.
Yeah, I mean that's the story. I would like to see Cole back though. I think that is a story you can go with almost immediately.
A part of me and SP3 talked about this after New Year Dash, and how like if Jay leaves Japan, there's immediately a vacuum open for the next leader to step in, a Bullet Club. And I do think that would be an awesome full circle moment of Jay always having a plan. And even if he gets kicked out, his guy comes in and takes over as leader. And the guy that helps kick him out is Adam Cole.
Baby.
But I don't see that happening. I think Jay is smart enough to not get kicked out of his own group. Not just yet.
Atlas Earth says, that Osprey Omega match was so good it felt otherworldly. Watching live was even more magical, on par with the Okada Omega series. I love that these guys also have the opportunity to do more in rematches. Hope to see those rematches stateside. I mean, I disagree with Phil. I do think that Forbidden Door, you sell Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega to, because I think it's an easy sell. I think that you have the recency of all these people hearing that, oh my God, most amazing match, Ospreay versus Kenny Omega in the Tokyo Dome. And then if you can sell tickets on the idea that now you can see it here, that's huge. And I think they absolutely should do something with that.
Is there a world title match on that card? Because if there's a world title match on that card and Okada's still champion, do you still go with that match?
I don't know. I feel like yes, because
don't.
and the reason I think you should is because I think I could see Kenny winning. I don't know if. No, I think they go like Brian Okada at Forbidden Door and then do Kenny Okada at the Dome.
I don't know, but because I think if you are trying to do a world title match and it's a one-on-one match, I don't know if you get bigger than Omega Okada. I know that Brian is a big match, but
I just feel like Kenny and Okada in that sense is a more New Japan match just on its own. It doesn't feel necessarily like an AEW versus New Japan match, whereas Kenny and Osprey did feel like an AEW versus New Japan match in a way because of the story that Kenny's been gone all this time. So I don't know. That's my feeling on it. A couple more. Kristen Mora says, a super chat for Grapsody. It has become my favorite wrestling show. I love seeing a different perspective on wrestling. Thanks for bringing this to the wrestling sphere. Thank you for checking us out. We always appreciate that. And last one, Brent Lockman says, so Preston is collecting masks. How long before he gets negative ones? He pissed that crowd off.
That was great. I think Preston is fantastic as a heel. I thought the promo he cut last week was great, and I thought this entire squash match and just how disrespectful he was, stepping on the man on the way out, I thought it was great.
Yeah. Ronan Mikeson's the last one. Last one, then I got to cut off. He says, happy Graps Saturday. I think that the unintended time off Kenny had from the brawl out was the best thing for him. Given the number of injuries he had and the bar he has set for his New Japan matches, I don't see how he pulls off that match. I mean, I don't think that was the best thing, honestly. Honestly, I think if Kenny hadn't had a couple of months off there, he might have been in the Wrestler of the Year conversation. Had he been able to work consistently from August till the end of December, and thinking at the level he was already working at, that man came back and was working at a super high level. Remember, people thought he wasn't just selling when he came back, and they were like, "Oh, is he still too injured?" But it turns out the story was that with each match, he lost one more piece of gear because he came out with all the protective gear on, and people were like, "Oh, is this how we have to see Kenny now?" But in each match, a different piece got ripped off until finally, in the match with Aussie Open and Will Osprey and with the United Empire, when they pulled off the tape off of his ribs, and it was like, damn, we suddenly now have Kenny again. Had he gotten to just consistently do Kenny Omega from August till the end of December, I think he would have already been in the conversation for Wrestler of the Year. And the fact that he had as many great matches as he had, and he only worked a couple matches in August, one match in September, and then came back in November and worked the rest of the year and is still in that conversation. This is the best bout machine, man. Like, there's no fucking way.
I mean, I still think Osprey had a better 2022 than him. I think he still would have.
Oh, I didn't say he would have won it. I just said he would have been in the conversation. I think in the way that, like, Dax Harwood's in the conversation, the way that that Seth Rollins is in that conversation. But I think Kenny would have been in that conversation just with those 4 months had he not had to lose a couple from Brawl Out.
I will say that I think that the thing that he's getting out that ended up working out for Kenny is that he came back in better shape. He looked better. He looked like he was in better spirits when he came back. We got that incredible entrance at Full Gear. We got the vignette the same night at the Stardom New Japan show. So I feel like it felt more special because he took some time away.
Yeah. I mean, but he was in phenomenal shape. That guy was he was ripped at All Out, though. And that was the first time I noticed. I was like, God damn, this guy has been working at his shit this whole time that he was off. And he kept quiet. But anyway, we got to go. We've been 3 hours and 20 minutes into this show. We started super late. I got a play date I got to get to. Let me make sure I text Billy's friend's mom that we're good to go. And I have to get back to my Saturday of parenting and Sunday. And then my kids go back to school. But anyway, peace, everybody. This has been Grapsody. Don't forget that this Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, youtube.com/Fightful. It is the first annual Fightful Awards. Be there. This is going to be amazing. It's me, it's Denise Salcedo, it's Sean Ross Sapp. We're going to be awarding all of the excellence in pro wrestling in 2022. I'm sorry that I kind of downplayed all of that by saying that I already thought a match was better than all of that shit, but we're still going to award all of the excellence. We've got some acceptance speeches coming, and it's going to be great stuff. So be there. We will be here. youtube.com/Fightful, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific this Thursday. Otherwise, for Philip Lindsay, for Righteous Reg, I'm Will Washington. See you next time. Have a great day. Peace.